What up, cappers, gamblers, punters, hustlers, low baggers? Welcome to odds.com's Tuesday NFL opening line show. And we are coming off a nice bounce back week. It did end in poor fashion with a couple L's, but it sure was a hell of a start. And overall, very good. With nice bounce back for Bebsy and I. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Bebsy, how you doing? You're coming off of a 8-3 week plus 4.46 units. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, buddy. You hit the nail on the head. It was great. It was fantastic, and then it got a little bit worse, but still happy to get back on track. I was 8-1 at one point, then 8-2, then 8-3, and some of the ones I was real confident on didn't hit, but that's the way she goes. Feels good to have another good week, though.
It does. It does feel good, and we were 10-1 combined on the 1 p.m. games. I got off to a nice start and lost my last two as well. We're going to review all of the action, as honesty and transparency are extremely important to us, and that is what we can always promise you is that. Shout out to all the cappers joining us, and thank you guys. Neil P. in the house, Mr. Funmug, Gerald Jones, Steele, Curtin, Michael, Hunter, Ricardo Gutierrez, David Sharp in the house, Slats 45, ready to get to work. Charlie Chips, and yes, Slats, we have an interesting Survivor situation this week, and it's getting down to the nitty-gritty. Lots of money up for grabs, and I'm very excited. But it's a pretty simple choice we have. To me, it's Browns or Giants, and we'll talk about that. Leonard Welch ready to get to work. Cash action bets. Lily Gunn, strategic investments. K-Paul, VIP, Nick Dillard, Christian Larson. What a great, great group. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Welcome to Tuesday night's opening lines show. All right, we also have a full slate because we have the Thanksgiving week. So we have 3 games on Thursday, no buys this week. So we're going to have to move quickly. All right, let's take a first review what happened last week. Bebsy and I combined 17-9 plus 6.66 units. And I don't care if that's a number that instills fear in people's hearts. We got Ski Profit in the house, Steven Martinez, Earl, DFS. I went 9-6 plus 2.20 units. It was disappointing. I was 9-4, and I was done my action. I added in that Chiefs Vegas under 56.5, which, that was a fair and square loss. But the Rams Buccaneers over 3.5 field goals at plus 120 was a bet I liked. I liked a lot. There was one missed field goal. Brady didn't get in position for for the field goal at the end of the game. A plus 120 spot, I probably would bet again if I was in that situation. Let's just quickly review my action. I hit the under 45.5 in Eagles Browns. Hit the under 48 in Patriots Texans. Hit Titans plus 6.5. Hit Tennessee Baltimore over 49. I'm 4-0 at that point. Then a couple ugly losses. Cowboys team total under 19.5. Dallas, Minnesota under 48. Then hit Packers team total over 24.5. Hit Green Bay, Indianapolis, over 51.5. Then the Falcons team total over 22.5 lost. But Pitt, Jacksonville under 47.5 was an easy winner. And shout out to Robert Allen, who gave us the final score on our Sunday show. He gave us the score of 30-3. And he was off by 3 points. So shout out to our guy, Robert Allen. Dolphins first half minus 2.5. Now, that was also at minus 120. A couple of these losses were at minus 120. The Falcons team total over as well. Also, I gave that Falcons team total over 21.5 on the show. When I went to bet it after the show, it was at 22.5, and I almost didn't. But I still did. Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard rush props. Bebsy, they were things of beauty.
That was lovely. And the way they hit. They hit one hit, and then 2 plays later, the other hit. And I was mid-texting you that the first one hit when Pollard busted off that huge gain. So, yeah, that felt good.
It was much more enjoyable for you because I did have the under in that game, and it wasn't going to hit anyways, but that did screw me at that point. But it wasn't going to hit anyways. Zeke Elliott over 56.5 rush yards, Pollard over 28.5 rush yards, cash. And then came those 2 losses at the end of the card. The Chiefs Raiders under 56.5 and the field goal prop plus 120 loss. And I'm still having a tough year, man. It was 3 weeks ago I was plus units, and I only gained 2.20 units of profit when we had so much right. Disappointing. Very disappointing that I didn't get on that Herbert prop with you as well. It was one I really liked. And disappointing. So I'm sitting 64 and 69, ugly, 48.1% down, 13.84 units. ROI minus double digits, 10.41%. Average line minus 111. Let's go over to Bebsy. Bebsy coming off an 8-3 week, plus 4.46 units. He's 44-37 on the year, hitting at 54.3%, plus 1.71 units. ROI plus 2.11%. Average line minus 112. He hit the the Eagles, Browns under 46. Hit Washington minus 1.5, Titans plus 6.5, and then lost the Packers plus 2.5. Those were the 4 bets that he put in on our Tuesday show. Went 3-1 on them. Then the first additions for the 1:00 game additions: Texans plus 2.5, Panthers plus 2, cash. Then Dolphins first half minus 2.5. The 3 props: Herbert over 279.5 passing yards, the Zeke and Tony Pollard props, and then he lost on the under 48.5. That is where we stand right now. Mohammed Joma joining us. We've got Strategic Investments. David Sharp, Bumbleclot, ready to roll with us. Prince of the City, ready to go. And Gerardo Hernandez in the house. So there is our review. Any last words before we put last week to bed, Bebsy?
No, not too much, man. Just, again, great to get back in the win column. That Miami game frustrated me so much. Because again, I think I had mentioned that it was one of my best bets of the week. But I can't complain about an 8-3 week, so I'm going to shut up whining about that loss.
Yeah, and that was a bad I didn't feel it was unjust in any way. Those are the losses that kind of bother me the most, because even that under in the Sunday nighter, the Chiefs Raiders under, if they call the grounding on Carr that was clear and obvious, they're put to a 3rd and long at that spot. If they don't get the touchdown there, the Chiefs run out the clock and we cash that. So that made me much angrier than the Dolphins, which we just didn't deserve. We had good looks all over the field, and not going back to that Jacksonville team total under, even though I still got the full game under, that really angered me. The problem is that when you're right across the board, you should have a lot of money to show for it, and I don't feel like I won enough on Sunday, which is irritating. All right, let's move on. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Happy Tuesday night to all of you. November 24th. Happy Thanksgiving week to all of you. Let's get to work. Bebsy, we start with Thursday Thanksgiving action, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Houston Texans 3-7, 1-4 on the road at the Detroit Lions, 4-6, 1-3 at home. Houston opens up at -2.5. It is now at -3. If you wanted 2.5, they're available. They're heavily juiced. This total opened up at 51. There are 51.5s on the board. Again, these are Bet365 openers. We talk about the licensed books here on the show. Birdie, great to see you. We got Delane, the King, ready to rock. Stephen Hennel, Taylor Williams, C-Mac as well joining us. Texans coming off a crucial 27-20 win at home over the Patriots. Deshaun Watson was 28 of 37 for 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's playing very, very well right now. 11 touchdowns, no interceptions over his past 5 games. They continued to struggle on the ground. They only accounted for 55 yards on 19 carries. 36 of those yards were from Watson on 6 carries. So that's how ugly that running game was. 19 yards from Duke Johnson and CJ Prosise. Duke Johnson ran 10 times for 15 yards. Prosise ran 3 times for 4 yards, and he was brought up off of the practice roster. David Johnson on the IR with a concussion, so there's no help coming. Brandon Cooks, 4 for 85. Jordan Akins, 5 of 83. Will Fuller, 6 of 80. J.J. Watt defended 4 passes for the first time in his career, had a tackle for a loss. He's the first lineman in NFL history to defend 4 passes and a tackle for a loss in the same game. The Texans were able to limit New England's potent running game, and that was that's what got me the under. I only squeaked in by a point, was that they were able to slow down that running game. They were terrible all season long. The 2 previous games, they allowed 346 yards rushing combined, and then they hold the Patriots to 86 yards rushing. Randall Cobb has an injured foot. He's going to be out of the lineup. He is week to week. Kenny Stills still questionable with the quadriceps injury. Left tackle Laramie Tunsil missed Sunday's game because of an undisclosed illness that wasn't COVID-19. He's listed as questionable. Defensive tackle PJ Hall is out of the lineup with a chest injury. Guard Senio Clemente still questionable, still not playing. Fullback Cullen Glaspia, quarterback Josh McCown, and punter Brian Anger are listed as questionable. Bebsy, let's start with the Texans before we get into the Lions, who are coming off a disgraceful 20-0 loss. What did you think of the Texans against the Patriots? Is this a team that's capable of going on a run in the second half?
No, I don't think there's – I still don't think they're a good team. I just think they beat a bad team. And we talked about this last week. You know, the Texans were underdogs in that game just because the Pats had a great game against the Ravens that was an anomaly because of the weather. So it's like you play good one week and then everyone blows their load on you the next week. But frankly, they're still not a good team. They still can't run the ball. So if they come up against good teams, then they're still going to struggle. Now, they're playing the Detroit Lions this week, and the Detroit Lions got skunked on the weekend by a P.J. Walker-led Carolina team. Look, P.J. made some great throws. I was impressed with him. But, look, I was on Carolina because I thought Bridgewater was going to play, and then I didn't back off them because I didn't think it really mattered because Detroit's not a good football team, and neither is Houston. So this is another week where it's just two bad football teams playing, but I think there is value in betting against Houston this week, again, because I think they're being propped up by their win against the Pats last week, but the Pats aren't good. So it's this weird, like, you beat this bad team, and now all of a sudden we think you're better. So the recency bias is out of control lately, I feel.
Well, your look on the Texans was extremely shrewd and sharp. And then if you plan to fade them this week, I find that extremely interesting. Stephen Handel says, I'm going to let the line go up to the Lions +5 and take them. Galladay and Swift are coming back, he thinks. Let's talk about these lines coming off that disastrous 20-0 loss at Carolina. Managed just 185 yards, 3 of 14 on third down. They did that against a Carolina defense that allowed its last four opponents to put up a combined 131 yards. The last four opponents scored on 27 of 36 possessions. Yet they shut out the Lions. They had only forced 2 punts in their last 4 games, and they shut out the Lions. Stafford, 18 of 33, 178 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You have to think, well, is his thumb injury an issue? He didn't take a snap under center all week in practice. He said after the game it didn't bother him, but that's just the way he is. He's listed as questionable. DeAndre Swift out of the lineup. Their running game was pitiful. They ran 17 times for 40 yards. Adrian Peterson ran 7 times for 18 yards. Kerryon Johnson ran 6 times for 17 yards. Hawkinson, who's been battling various injuries, foot injuries, shoulder injuries, made 4 catches for 68 yards. He's listed as questionable with a shoulder injury. The offense was without DeAndre Swift, Kenny Galladay, Danny Amendola. All 3 are listed as questionable this week. They were destroyed by a Carolina team that was missing their starting quarterback and Teddy Bridgewater, star running back and Christian McCaffrey, best offensive lineman Russell Okung, also missing John Miller, cornerback Dante Jackson. The Lions are 25th in the NFL, allowing 258.4 yards a game passing, and that's the only way the Texans can hurt you. Also listed as questionable this week, defensive end Deshaun Hand, defensive end Austin Bryant. Look at this, just keeps going on. Linebacker Jarrett Davis, cornerback Jeff Okudah, wide receiver Marvin Hall, offensive tackle Halapoulivaati Vaitai, and they've been waiting for him to return the lineup for a while. Linebackers Reggie Ragland, Christian Jones, guard Jonah Jackson, safety Willie Harris, and cornerback Mike Ford's in concussion protocol. With all that said, I can understand the Texans being overvalued, but I can't, for the life of me, make a move on the Lions. I mean,
well, that's just it. People who put money on the Lions don't typically have a lot of money. And again, you just read out a laundry list of questionable names. I don't think you can make a move on them now, even if you're going to. You have to see who's going to play. This is a difficult call for that reason. And I didn't say I was going to bet the Lions. I said there's value in the Lions right now because I do think there's going to be a little too much hype on Houston right now. But if none of those guys can play, I don't care if Stafford's thumb is bothering him or not. It's not going to matter. Again, this is a team that just got skunked by a Carolina team that has not had a formidable defense all year. So they're in a lot of trouble right now. This is a sit back for now game. Again, like, I do think Houston, especially right now, is a better football team. I just think in general, they're going on the road playing Detroit on Thanksgiving. It's not a good spot for them. It's just because Detroit is so injured right now. So I think you have to have a little more clarification on who's playing and who's not.
Yeah. I mean, when I went over all these injuries for the Lions with 3 days to prepare and a coach in Matt Patricia who often seems underprepared, I understand why it's moving to the Texans. My only fear is that I missed the 2.5, which is okay, but the fact that we're overvaluing them after a win at home over the Patriots. The more I go over the Lions, the more I want to fade them. And I guess, so what are you saying, that we should just pump the brakes and don't take to heart what happened last week? Stafford says one game does not a team make. I mean, he doesn't care about what happened last week. He says it doesn't mean that you can't decide things about our offense over one game.
No, and kudos to Stafford for not making an excuse. Like, he did not have a good game. He had an obvious excuse in just saying, yeah, like, the thumb's bothering me a bit. I respect the fact that he didn't do that. And yeah, I mean, one game does not make a team. But I think we need to pump the brakes here because there's a lot of questionable guys for Detroit. And if all those guys play, then Detroit is a much different team. They're still not a good team, but it's a different team. So for me, there's just not enough information to make an educated guess on this game right now because I don't know who's playing. And that's been a problem between COVID and injuries this year. That has been a very, very difficult thing to pick games unless you're doing it right before game time. It was part of the reason why I laid off so many games last week until Sunday. I added a bunch, but to me, this is something you look at tomorrow night or even early Thursday morning and see if you change your mind on it. But right now it's, take Houston and hope that none of those guys can play. But if all those guys can play, I don't know, Detroit, Thanksgiving just feels like they could pull it out. So
I hear what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. And we have a full card here. We can't sit here for too long on this game. Charlie Chips is on the under 51. If I had a free move on the total, especially, I guess this is another spot where we need to know more about who's coming back. But just even the way Stafford looked with the thumb issue, even though he's not calling it a problem, the under would be the spot for me. This is why it's 2 hours, 30 minutes. Would you move on the total at this point, or I guess it makes no sense because you need to hear who's coming back?
I mean, again, I think I wait, but if that doesn't move much, I would for sure look at the under as a viable play. And the other thing, somebody mentioned what kind of props I would look at. I would look at Deshaun Watson's rushing props in this. Depending on what it opens at, I'd look for an over, again, because he's the only guy who can run on that team right now. Duke Johnson is not a very good running back. He's okay, but without David Johnson, who's also not very good, they just anemic in the running game. So this that's a prop that I would look at, and yes, absolutely lean under.
I made that bet on the Herbert prop a couple weeks ago, saying they had no run game, and then he only ran 3 times, and I was lucky to get over the 16.5 yards. He broke one, so he ran for 21 yards, but that angle hasn't been working for me of late when there's no running game, saying that he's the only one that will move the ball. But he did put up 36 yards on 6 carries last week. Christian Larson agreeing with the Watson prop. So for us, and Stephen Hennel says 73% of the money on the over for some reason. And I'll pull up what's going on here in all these where the money is situations right now. Okay, so no move at this point for the opener. 12:30 p.m. Thursday, Thanksgiving. We will do something on it. All right, and Cash Action Bet's giving us the Thanksgiving record for these Lions, 37-40-2. All right, let's get to work here. Washington, Dallas Cowboys, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Dallas Cowboys opening up at -3 at plus money, and they're still there, -3 at plus money. This total has dropped from 48 down to 46. Washington coming off a 29 win at home over the Bengals in the game overshadowed by Joe Burrow's season-ending injury. Washington 3-7, 0-4 on the road. Cowboys 3-7, 2-3 at home. This Washington football team now just a half game back of Philadelphia for first place in the NFL's weakest division. Cincinnati was carrying the play before the Burrow injury. Alex Smith was 17-25 for 166 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Terry McLaurin caught 5 passes for 84 yards. Antonio Gibson ran 16 times for 94 yards. Let's give a big shout out to our man Clint, star of the Die Hard MMA podcast. He keeps going back to the well with Antonio Gibson touchdown, and he keeps getting rewarded for it. In this case, he got rewarded in the first quarter. Our man Clint. Both McLaren and Gibson are dealing with ankle injuries. They didn't practice yesterday. They're listed as questionable, but are expected to play. Washington was without starting left tackle Cornelius Lucas and free safety DeShazer Everett because of ankle injuries. Wide receiver Dontrell Inman, linebacker Jared Norris. As I said, Everett and Lucas. Defensive end Ryan Anderson. Place kicker Dustin Hopkins. Cornerback Danny Johnson are all listed as questionable. Let's start with the Washington Football Club. Do you believe in the win that you witnessed and bet on, and do you like them against the Cowboys?
To be honest with you, yes, I do believe in the win because they were, you're right, overshadowed by the injury to Burrow, but they were in control of that game prior to Burrow getting hurt. Unfortunate for Burrow getting hurt. I mean, I hate seeing any player get hurt, especially a young, extremely talented player like him. It just sucks. I don't like seeing any good football player get hurt or any football player get hurt. But I do think Washington was playing a good game, and they were coming at him and they were bringing pressure, and they're starting to figure certain things out. Alex Smith has brought a sense of organization to that team. It feels like Gibson's playing better each week. He's starting to figure it out. There's now a connection between McLaurin and Smith, and I really believe that this team is rallying around Alex Smith right now. They got something to play for, and right now I think Dallas is being overvalued because they looked good this week. They're still not a good football team. Zeke had his best game in a while, which still wasn't a great game. I mean, he limped to that rush prop. I mean, I was nervous. I was watching that all game. I don't know why they're not feeding the rock to Pollard some more, but again, I have more faith in Alex Smith than I do in Andy Dalton right now.
I agree. And M. Stroh is saying, I'm sure making me laugh is what he's doing. Mr. Funmonks is watching Dallas. Looks like a pick 'em. God love Washington at +3. Let's talk about the Cowboys a little more. Coming off a big 31-28 win at the Vikings. So, we can take advantage of that. Andy Dalton looked good, 22 of 32 for 23 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Their offensive line looked much stronger with Joe Looney replacing the injured Tyler Biadazi. At center, right guard Zach Martin taking over at right tackle for Terrence Steele, rookie Terrence Steele, and Connor McGovern filling in Martin's spot. Gave Dalton time to make plays, and he made them. They scored twice as many touchdowns at Minnesota as they had in the 4 previous games without Prescott. Amari Cooper, 6 catches for 81 yards. Zeke Elliott, 21 rushes for 103 yards, his first 100-yard rushing game of the year. Tony Pollard, 5 rushes for 60 yards. Cowboys forced 3 fumbles, recovered 2 of them. Leighton Vander Esch was all over the field. Man, he's probably not going to be walking when he's 50. But my God, is he playing good football? 12 tackles. Cornerback Anthony Brown, ribs, left because of the injury in the fourth quarter. He's listed as doubtful. So Anthony Brown not going to be there. Tight end Blake Bell, it says questionable with a back injury. Greg Zuerlein, he's questionable with a back injury as well. And they're worried about him. But McCarthy says he's expected to play. They put cornerback Trayvon Diggs on injured reserve, but they got Chidobe Awuzie, their cornerback, back after a 7-game absence. At this point, I agree. I agree with the move to the under, 48-46. That makes sense to me. And I agree that Washington at +3 is probably a nice spot. Is it a nice enough spot to bet, Bebsy?
I don't know. I feel like it is. It just, again, like I think this Dallas team, again, despite a win this week and looking much better than they have in recent weeks. I said as well, like getting Sean Lee back and having those 3 linebackers available, even though 2 of them are constantly injured and one of them came over or overcame an incredible injury to even have an NFL career. They still don't inspire much for me. I still don't think this Dallas team is great. I mean, on paper at the start of the year, they looked a lot better. Man, CeeDee Lamb catch was outrageous. So I don't know if they can build on that. It's a tough spot because realistically, and especially because Dallas lost their first meeting, to me, this is just a very difficult play to jump on. But I really want to take Washington again.
Yeah, I agree. And I understand why it dropped to 46. And there's stats that have come out in this past week about these totals that are at 48, open at 48, and how the unders hit at a high percentage. Is there a move that you're going to make at this point, Pepsi?
I think we should circle back around this one because I feel like I want to take Washington with the points, but I want to mull this over a little bit more before I jump on it.
The money line is between plus 125 and plus 135. The first half money line is between plus 120 and plus 130. Charlie Chips took the 48 early. I like that you did that. Birdie says, I do personally believe the under is the best play. I agree. At 48, that was a great move. And then for the spread, if we wanted watching at plus 3, there's juice on it. I mean, I don't want to sit here with these minus 120s are really hurting me, and I despise them. And that's what it would be right now. It would be a minus 120. NMK says Washington and the under.
I got Lily Gunn telling me to follow my gut, and then I got Prince of the City telling me to circle the wagons. I love the input for both.
Let's move to a very tricky game that was to be the most exciting game on Thursday. Ravens, Steelers. It's still available to bet, which surprises me. Ravens are now 5.5-point dogs. Opened at 3.5. Did it open at 3? No, 3.5. But the 3.5 for Pittsburgh when it opened was at plus money. Ravens have lost 2 straight, 3 of 4, coming off a disappointing 30-24 overtime loss at home to the Ravens. It was well capped by us. More concerning is these positive COVID tests. So Harbaugh confirmed on Monday that running backs Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins tested positive for the coronavirus and would miss Thursday's game. So it's the Gus show. And Gus Edwards running all day is not going to go well for the Ravens. Additionally, tackle Brandon Williams was also placed on the team's reserve 19 list as a close contact. Then today at 2 p.m., it was reported that they have at least 10 positive cases. Lily Gunn's got Pitt minus 3.5. Cash Action Bet says minus 4. Muhammad Joma says no way you could back the Ravens in this game. I agree. Against the Titans, Lamar Jackson had another tough game. 17-29, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He rushed 15 times for 51 yards. Dobbins looked good. He ran 15 times for 70 yards, but he's not going to play. I wish I had to pull the trigger on the Mark Andrews prop, and I understand why I was led away from it by you guys, and I don't hold any ill will. He had 5 catches for 96 yards, and now he's got a thigh injury. He's listed as questionable. He's expected to play. Des Bryant, 4 catches for 28 yards, all in the third quarter, his first catches in an NFL game since New Year's 2017. Until the fourth quarter, the Ravens had done a really good job controlling Henry. And is that there's a couple of different reasons why that happened, and it very likely could be because of the weakness of the Titans' offensive line, not because the Ravens stout defensively. Calais Campbell, and Brandon Williams are both hurt. Campbell with the calf injury, Williams with the ankle injury. And then we had Patrick McCarry started at center for Baltimore in place of Matt Skura. Skura had looked terrible in the previous 2 games. Calais Campbell, Matthew Judon, and Jimmy Smith are all listed as questionable. Nick B says, I'm happy with my Pittsburgh -3 win or lose. It's a great spot to be in. The COVID hanging over this game really kind of ruins it for me. Bebsy, take it away. Ravens, Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the COVID really is dictating this game right now. I mean, who, again, this is another game. Who is going to play for the Ravens? They've got injury concerns. They have COVID concerns. I feel like, I mean, I'm starting to wonder if this game is even going to get played with the number of positive tests they've had. Look, they ran roughshod over the Steelers and lost 280 yards on the ground, but they don't have Ingram. They don't have Dobbins. Teams are figuring out more and more how to shut down this Ravens offense, and Lamar has not been able to find his receivers. So unless their defense can really step up and shut this down, but you still have so many questions on defense. Is Calais Campbell still out, is he not?
He is.
So he was such a major part of them shutting down the Steelers' run game, which isn't a very good run game, but you know they've got 3 very talented receivers. Big Ben's in a groove. You can't bet the Ravens here at all. I mean, I think even if all those guys are healthy, you can't bet them. But I mean, it would have been nice to get on them very early. I feel like this game might just get wiped out.
Yeah, I thought it would too, but it's such an important game. If it does get wiped out, you have to think they cut the 12:30 spot and I guess move the Lions-Texans game there. Or I guess they move Washington-Dallas to the late game and then 4:30 to the Lions. Tricky. So this total opens up at 46. It's now down to 44.5. The leading indicator books still have it at 45, and 80% of the money's on the under. What do you think of that total if it gets down to 44.5, Bebsy?
I mean, this feels like a fade the public moment. The under doesn't appeal to me very much. Because I think it could end up being a very sloppy game, although it feels like Pittsburgh has played a lot tighter games as of late. So I guess I understand why it is that low. Again, very hard to predict a score or a points total, not knowing who's going to play. Do you say 9 positive tests or
10? 10.
Like that decimates a team, especially when. Look, no disrespect to Gus Edwards fans out there, but Gus Edwards is a far cry from Ingram or Dobbins. He's a head down, slam it running back, and he's been serviceable at times, but he's not a bell cow. He's not a guy who can carry the ball 25 times in a game. So if they can't run the ball, they can't pass the ball. How is this not Steelers beating up on them?
Well, I don't think the Titans' offense is that strong now that they've been decimated on the offensive line. And Tannehill hasn't looked that good. And I think the Steelers should be able to put up points when they can run right up the gut. The problem is they're also going to control the clock. Charlie Chip says they may cancel the game. Ravens will ask the NFL. This game will end their season if they lose. I want this to keep going down low. The Steelers team total is at 25.5. And I think they get over that. I really do.
What was the team total over?
25.5.
Yeah, I mean that so far that's been the most appealing bet I've seen come up about this. Again, it's coming out in the chat right now, and I said it before. I can't see this game being played. This is too important a divisional game, and the NFL. The NFL's made some bad decisions this year with letting certain games happen that probably shouldn't have. The Green Bay 49ers Thursday night game comes to mind when one team didn't have any receivers, the other team didn't have a running back. Like there's other games happening that day. NFL's got to step up, cancel this game. It's too important for the league. I'd hate to see the Ravens lose because they don't have anybody to play, and then their season is pretty much over.
I think that David Sharp is absolutely right. So I think it's over. How can the Steelers control the clock if they can't run the ball? He's absolutely right. Let's talk more about the Steelers here. Steelers coming off 27-3 dismantling of the Jaguars in Jacksonville. 10-0 for the first time in franchise history. Big Ben, 32 of 46, 267 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. James Conner looked good for the first time in a few weeks. So they hadn't been able to run the ball for 3 weeks in a row. He goes 13 of 89 yards. Deontay Johnson, 12 catches for 111 yards. Chase Claypool, which is a prop that a bunch of you guys talked about in the chat, taking it plus 125 for the touchdown. He made 4 catches for 59 yards. Terrell Edmonds, Minka Fitzpatrick, 2 interceptions each. The Jags managed only 206 yards of offense. The Steelers had 2 sacks, now the league leading 37 on the season. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster tweaked his foot. He stepped on a yellow flag, official's yellow flag. Tomlin says a minor injury, but he did not practice today. He's listed as questionable. Gentry, tight end Zach Gentry, sustained a significant knee injury. He's been placed on injured reserve. It's a left knee sprain, and he's on injured reserve. It's not as severe as initially feared. Cornerback Joe Hayden suffered a minor knee injury. He's listed as questionable to go this week. J. Rowan Elliott, their linebacker, and running backs Jalen Samuels and Trey Edmonds are also listed as questionable this week. I think that they can Brady says, talking about the lack of points they scored with 4 interceptions, it was just they didn't need to score. And is this going to be a similar situation where they don't need to score, Bebsy?
Given how banged up and sick the Ravens are right now, it could be. Could be a game where the Pittsburgh just jumps out early and just controls it. But, like people are bringing up, they don't have a very good running game. I wonder if the Ravens' injuries and COVID issues will solve that problem for the Steelers. But I think there is value in the over, and I think there is value in the team total over because, again, this is a game that Pittsburgh for sure has been staring at as a possible spoiler to their perfect season. And it's right now it's kind of being gifted to them with all the players on the Ravens who might not play. So that team total over is definitely the most intriguing play we've talked about so far.
Well, I also like the Steelers first half because then you get the 3, and that 3 is not going to be around for long. I don't see how this comes down at all. So maybe I'm too late. The team total over 25.5. is a play is a bet that I want to make. This Ravens defense is no longer scary. If you can run right up the gut, they're just no longer scary. Alvin Smith says time for Pittsburgh to lose. I wish this game wasn't clouded with COVID.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with Alvin if it weren't for the fact that half of these starters are out right now and again the strength of their offense is that running game. So unless Lamar Jackson, peels off for 180 yards himself, I don't see how they do it.
That's also an interesting idea, grabbing a Lamar Jackson prop. He's probably going to do everything in his power to keep this game close. A Lamar Jackson rush prop is interesting.
Is that out already, or we gotta wait?
We gotta wait. Okay. All right. Brady says we need to do this show Sunday at 9 p.m. Yeah, I can understand missing this market. Right now, I think I move on the Steelers first half. I move on the team total over 25.5 for the Steelers. And I wait for the Lamar Jackson rush prop. Bud Knight says Gus Edwards averaging 5.1 yards per carry in his career. It's going to be fun watching him. There's going to be a lot of pressure. Okay, those are the Thursday nighters, and at this point, or the Thursday Thanksgiving action, at this point, we have no moves from Bebsy.
No, hold on. I think I'm going to jump on this Pittsburgh team total over, and maybe the first half as well.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can get you something better. Why don't we go line shopping here at odds.com and see what we are getting, let's go to betting odds here. A first half for the Steelers is Bet365 is giving you the best. Same what that I will be getting. -3 at -115. And then, do you want to wait to circle back on the Washington game after we finish the show or finish all the games?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Bebsy, first half -3. Do you want the team total as well?
Yeah, what did you have it at?
25.5.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just put this for both of us. Okay, for both of us. Okay, beautiful. We have Robert Allen joining us. Robert Allen gave us a final score on our Sunday show of the Steelers-Jacksonville Jaguars game. It's perfect timing for him to jump in as we're just finishing off with the Steelers. He gave us a final score of 30-3. Robert Allen, you were off by 3 points. Spectacular work.
David Sharp, I do want to point out that I'm making an exception for Thanksgiving football. Right back to boycotting Thursday night football next week.
I understand. And we're going to circle back at Washington, and also we just need more information. I'm going to make a move on the Texans-Lions game. Okay, let's keep rolling. Okay, Kansas City wanting to buy an island and a boat into lockdown. Okay, that's Thursday's action. Let's move on to Sunday's action. We're gonna start.
I didn't get the invite. Just Jimmy.
sorry, Bebs.
That's cold, man.
He doesn't like your disrespect for Tom Brady, although it was warranted this week.
It's been warranted a lot this year.
Raiders, Falcons. We're just going to go down the rotation numbers. So let's go. Raiders, Falcons is where we start. Raiders 6-4, 4-1 on the road at the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons, 3-7, 1-4 at home. Raiders open up at -2.5. Now they're sitting at -3. This total's gone from 56 down to 55.5. The Raiders offense looked very good in their 35-31 loss at home to the Chiefs. Their defense was unable to get stops when they needed them, but Derek Carr looked excellent. 23-31, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. 2 of the 8 incompletions were throwaways. 4 were on target or very close to on target passes that should have been caught by Aguilar and Alec Ingold. And 1 was a desperation interception at the closing seconds. Aguilar caught 6 passes, 88 yards, 1 touchdown, but had a couple costly drops. Darren Waller looked excellent, unguardable. 7 catches, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. The Raiders ranked 31st in the league with just 11 sacks. That's tied for the third fewest for the franchise through 10 games in the Super Bowl era. They just added Tack McKinley and Vic Beasley, 2 players that the other teams in the league don't want, but do have an upside. Richie Incognito, their guard, underwent season-ending foot surgery. He's been sidelined since week 2. He had hoped to return. The Raiders had hoped he would return. He's not going to. Las Vegas waiting to find out whether right tackle Trent Brown, linebacker Corey Littleton, defensive end Cleveland Farrell, or the defensive back Lamarcus Joyner will be able to return from COVID-19 this week. Offensive tackle Sam Young, running back Jalen Richard, defensive tackle Maurice Hurst are all listed as questionable. Let's start with the Raiders. Did you like what you saw against the Chiefs, and do you have interest on backing them this week?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely liked what I saw coming from that Chiefs game. You had the Chiefs out of their bye week, which Andy Reid has historically been great at. They've hit unders. It's part of the reason why we jumped on that under, or I did anyways. But this Raiders team is starting to believe in themselves. Offensively, they look fantastic. Defensively, they still have a ton of problems. I don't know if Beasley and McKinley will be the answer, especially because McKinley just keeps failing physicals everywhere he goes. I don't know if he's just failing them on purpose to try and get to a contender before the end of the season. Just whoever claims him, the better that team gets every time he fails. But yeah, to me, I worry about these games that are so obviously wrong. Like, the Raiders should kick the shit out of Atlanta this week. Atlanta was awful on Sunday. Atlanta's been awful a bunch this year. This Raiders team is getting it together. They're playing well. They're believing in one another. they're starting to get healthy in the right spots, and especially if they can get guys like LaMarcus Joyner back. How great is Jonathan Abram as far as just a guy who plays at 1,000,000 miles an hour and lights people up? This Raiders team is becoming very fun to watch, and they're just a lot better than Atlanta. And I don't think, as much as it was a difficult loss for them to especially in the fashion that they did, they scored the touchdown late. The Chiefs answer, as we've seen them do time and again, but they've already beat the Chiefs once this year. I don't think that loss hangs over them. I think they keep gunning here, and there's to me this is a no-brainer for the Raiders.
It's the Falcons that make it a no-brainer. Coming off a 24-9 loss, or if I move to a no-brainer status, but I can understand because of how bad the Falcons looked, and let's go over it. 24-9 loss at New Orleans. Matt Ryan, 19 of 37, 232 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He had no time. The offensive line was terrible. 8 sacks. Atlanta was 2 for 14 on third down. They couldn't move the ball on the ground at all. 14 carries for 52 yards as a team. Season low totals for Todd Gurley of 8 carries and 26 yards. His longest run was 7 yards. That's another season low. Calvin Ridley led the receivers with 5 catches for 90 yards. Julio Jones had 2 catches for 39 yards before he left with tightness in his left hamstring. He did return to play a few snaps in the second half and then left again. He's listed as questionable. He's not going to practice this week. In the first 4 games under Raheem Morris, the average time of possession was 35 minutes and 12 seconds. That led the NFL. I spoke about it. And then that fell to 26-12 against the Saints. And that might just be because the Saints defense is that good. The Falcons defense looked awful to a Saints offense missing Drew Brees. Gave up 378 yards, 168 and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Rookie cornerback A.J. Terrell was the bright spot. 6 tackles, 1 turnover. He a strip from the quarterback from Taysom Hill. Young-Ho Koo, good on field goal attempts. I mean, the guy's rolling. 24-25 this year. 5 for 5 of at least 50. And then linebacker Michael Walker at his hamstring is listed as questionable. Birdie says Falcons have the Saints on deck. Jones got hit by another sniper again. I really like the Raiders here, but for some reason in this moment I'm hesitant. This line is not jumping like I thought it would. Strategic Investment says Raiders are 6-2 against spread in their last 8 games after scoring more than 30 points in their previous game. And if Julio Jones is out, I mean, this is just very simple almost.
To be honest with you, I don't know if it matters if Julio Jones is in. I mean, Julio Jones, we all know he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, but this Atlanta defense doesn't have a prayer at stopping this Raiders offense right now. Like the Raiders offense, and I was on them at the start of the season. I said they were good there, weak on defense, but they've even exceeded the expectations I had for them on offense. And that, we've talked about this 1-2 punch they have. Jacobs is a menace, and then Booker comes in and picks up the pieces. Like I just don't see how Atlanta stops them. Look, anytime I'm this bullish on a team, I'm worried. I don't know why the line is as close as it is. Like it would make more sense to me if it was, 4.5 or something sitting around there. But again, I get it. The Raiders got to travel, but to me, this is my gut, my brain, everything says Raiders.
It's very interesting how the market worked. They at the main indicator books opened at 2.5 and was there for 7 minutes. Hit 3. As soon as it hit 3, the Falcons got hammered. That stopped, but the Falcons got hammered for an hour and a half, and that made the Raiders 3 at plus 105. It's now back to a minus spot, minus 105 or minus 110. But the last time we saw a spot like this where we expected a market to move on the favorite and it didn't was the Ravens-Patriots game. And we got hurt badly.
But, I mean, again, let's talk about how much that weather affected that Ravens Patriots game.
Yeah. No, I hear you. There's something very scary in the NFL when something looks easy. And
and that again is my apprehension about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about with recency bias. I mean, the Falcons have been bad all year. The Raiders have gotten incrementally better as the season's gone on.
I don't know. I thought remember I said it on this show last week. I thought that if I wish the Falcons weren't playing the Saints, because I got really caught up in what they were doing with Raheem and how they were holding the ball for 35 minutes a game. I got caught up in it. And so I thought they were an improving squad until I watched Matt Ryan last week look out of sorts. And is he out of sorts because of how good the Saints defense is, or is he out of sorts because of how bad the Falcons offense is? That's the question that needs to be answered. So,
yeah. I mean, I think the Saints defense is very good, and they've, especially as of late, have played much better, but I just think it boils down to Atlanta just doesn't have the personnel they need to be a better team.
Okay, we've got to move because we've only been through 4 games and we're 52 minutes into the show. Robert Allen says 34-27 Falcons win the upset. Dezar also back in the Falcons. Strategic investments. The Falcons 5-1 against spread in their last 6 games after allowing more than 350 total yards in their previous game. Nilo says Atlanta is a broken team. Ashwin Tatakola says might as well relax and take the first half over. And the market here for the total, you have another situation where – so this is the same situation as the Ravens-Steelers game. The Ravens-Steelers game has a huge amount of cash on the under and more tickets on the over. And this is the same here in the Raiders-Falcons game. 58% of the cash is on the under. It's dropped a half point, but 66% of the tickets are on the over, which means the big bets are coming in on the under. Okay. So no move for me at this point. But are we going to sit here in 24 hours and see the Raiders at -3.5 and be angry?
No, I want the Raiders right now. I want them at -3.
Okay, you want them at -3. Okay. Let's get you that right now. Bebsy coming in on the Raiders. Raiders, here we go. Raiders, full game. Let's see what we can offer them. A -3. The best we can offer you is -109, and that's at Bet America. Raiders -3, -109. Bet America. And all right. Okay, let's go. We move on to the Cardinals. Cardinals, Patriots, and we had our man in the chat here, Ashwin Tatakola, say Patriots. Bad spot for the Cardinals. And had Kyler Murray not got hurt against the Seahawks, I thought this was a great spot for the Cardinals. On extra rest and preparation following that 28-21 loss on the Thursday nighter. The Czar says Pat's easy pick, and I can understand that only because of Kyler Murray's injury. Without Kyler Murray's injury, I would want the Cardinals here with the extra rest and prep and the fact that I don't think the Patriots can score with the Cardinals, and the Cardinals can just put up points. And the reason why they were unable to against the Seahawks was because Kyler Murray wasn't running. Season low 5 carries for 15 yards because LJ Collier and Carlos Dunlap hurt him. And he worked out today on a side field away from his healthy teammates. Listed as questionable. He was 29-42 for 269 yards, 2 touchdowns. And, it's going to definitely keep me off. Larry Fitzgerald led the receivers with 8 catches for 62 yards. DeAndre Hopkins made 5 catches for 51 yards. The Cardinals as a team only rushed 18 times for 57 yards. They lose starting safety Jalen Thompson to a right leg injury. He had to be helped off the field on a cart. He put no weight on it. He aggravated this is from Kingsbury. He said he aggravated the same injury that landed him on the injured reserve earlier this season. So starting safety Jalen Thompson not going to be there. The thing is that the Patriots can't take advantage of it. Safety Charles Washington, offensive tackle Justin Murray, and tight end Darrell Daniels are all listed as questionable. And then we have this Pats team coming off 27-20 loss at Houston. Cam Newton looked good. 26 of 40, 365 yards, 1 touchdown. The Patriots running game struggled against the 31st ranked run defense, 86 yards on 24 carries. The Texans had allowed 346 yards on the ground last 2 games combined. Damian Harris ran the ball 11 times for 43 yards. Damian Byrd was the high receiver, 6 catches for 132 yards. And then Rex Burkhead carted off the field, need a helmet collision with Bradley Roby. He's announced on Twitter today or yesterday, or it might even have been Sunday night, but he announced on Twitter that he's done for the season. That's a huge loss. He had 466 yards combined, rushing and receiving, and 6 touchdowns. Tackle Isaiah Wynn also left Sunday's game, leg injury. So this team had 8 opt-outs, and now with injuries, and that includes Donta Hightower, Patrick Chung, Marcus Cannon. Now they have injuries to Julian Edelman, Rex Burkhead. I mean, this is a team that's running back J.J. Taylor and defensive tackle Adam Butler are listed as questionable, but I can understand Sharps being on the Patriots. I'm not going to be one of them. Bebsy, take it away.
Well, at least the Czar and I are back on the same page after one disagreement, but I think this is a spot play for the Pats. That would be, if I had a free play, yes. But again, the uncertainty with Kyler Murray plays huge. I think you have to sit back and try and figure out if Murray's playing, yeah, you back the Cards, but the line's going to move. If he's not, for me, there's no play right now. There's not even much point in discussing it until you know if Kyler Murray is playing. It's such a massive difference if he is and if he's not. The only thing to me that's really appealing right now is that under. I think that's the best bet in this game. Is, the Patriots haven't exactly been a juggernaut offensively this year, and without Kyler Murray, the under is very much in play. But again, you got to sit back and wait on this one, find out what's going on with Kyler as the week goes on. So this is something we'll revisit on Sunday, and maybe I have a play here, but today I certainly don't.
So, Steven, I have similar numbers to you with the total, but I have 52% of the cash on the Patriots and 77% of the tickets on the Cardinals. So it's the tourists on the Cardinals and it's the pros on the Patriots. 85% of the money I have on the over and 75% of the tickets on the over. Oh, 90% of the money on Action Network. Okay. But I've got 52% of the cash on the Cardinals. So clearly the Cardinals is the sharp pick. And Bebsy, by the way, I think Kyler Murray's playing for sure. I just think he's going to play hurt and be very pensive and tentative to run the ball.
Well, I mean, that's such a huge element of his game. So, yeah. Okay, so he does play, but he doesn't play like himself, and then he's not Kyler Murray, So I need to see more about his overall health, and I don't know how much we're going to learn between now and Sunday, but for me, it's sitting back right now and waiting to learn a little bit more about this game.
Yeah.
Doesn't Kyler Murray look like a little kid who stole his brother's pads and went out and snuck into the game?
Yeah, he does until he starts dominating. And
he's incredible. I really enjoy Kyler Murray.
Oh, I know you do.
His helmet looks too big for his body.
Well, this is a issue here. If he's scared, I guess if he's scared to run, which is the most likely scenario, then the Patriots have to be able to take care of business.
But you also have to figure that Cliff Kingsbury is not going to roll him out there if he's not ready to go.
Yeah, but I still think this is going to be an interesting spot to see his character. When he stopped running the ball against the Seahawks, game was over, and they couldn't put up points. Very, very, very interesting. And the more we talk about it, the more I agree that the Patriots have to be the play. And even if Kyler Murray's announced in, Patriots have to be the play. Simply have to be the play. let's just take a look at what the weather is going to be like here in Foxborough on Sunday. It's gorgeous, nice, warm. So it's not going to be if you were going to bet the Patriots, you want that frozen ground. Okay, let's move on to the Giants Bengals here, and this is one of the two survivor options that I have, and also a money-making option, although we're watching money come in quickly on the Giants. This total opened up at 43.5. It's now at 43. The Giants opened up at -4 at Bet365. It's now moved to 5.5. 3-7 Giants, 1-4 on the road at the Bengals, 2-7-1, 2-2 at home. Giants coming in off their bye week. We last saw them in an impressive 27-17 win at home over the Giants. Second straight win. Daniel Jones, 21 of 28, 244 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Also ran 9 times for 67 yards. Jones had lost 16 straight starts to teams other than Washington. As a team, the Giants ran 36 times for 151 yards. Darius Slayton looked great, 5 catches for 93 yards. They held the Eagles to 0 for 9 on third down. They lost Kevin Zeitler to a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. He's the only guy on the injury report. Cincinnati coming off the heartbreaking season-ending injury to Joe Burrow, 29 loss at Washington. It just seems like a very deflating manner that they lost him in, and the team is just going to kind of go off to their very high draft pick. Burrow lost a fumble in the red zone that turned into a touchback, but at the time he got hurt in the third quarter, they hadn't punted. Ryan Finley came in and looked terrible. 3 of 10 for 30 yards and 1 interception. Tyler Boyd led the receivers with 9 catches and 85 yards. As a team, they rushed 18 times for 70 yards. No one ran for more than 19 yards total. Finley had one of those rushes for 19 yards, one of them when he broke one. They played a 4th consecutive game without Joe Mixon because of foot injury. He was put on the injured reserve last Saturday, so he'll miss at least the next 2 weeks. He's not coming back to save them. Wide receiver Mike Thomas, offensive tackle Fred Johnson are both listed as questionable. How do we not hammer the Giants here, Bebsy?
The only thing that makes me apprehensive about hammering the Giants is, whether or not this is a bit of an overreaction, and Cincinnati is still decent, but it really does feel like the Giants should smash in this one, and that's saying something because the Giants are not a very good team. I'd said the week prior to their bye week, I said that their defense was sort of getting it together, and it's been, if there is a bright spot for them, it has been that defense is showing some promise and rounding into form. But my apprehension is the overreaction here. Like, do we think that the Bengals are now useless? I mean, I see this line climbing. I almost want to sit on it and see if it keeps being bet up, and then take the Bengals with points later in the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. I completely understand that. But I also completely agree with Al Cervic saying Burrow was carrying the Bengals.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Burrow was incredible. And Herbert has also been incredible. Remember, I was excited about Sam Darnold. I thought some of these guys, quarterbacks it's very tricky to figure things out.
Do not blame Sam Darnold.
I do. I think Sam Darnold has been just very disappointing. Very disappointing.
He has nothing.
Yeah, but Joe Burrow.
But Adam Gase is his coach.
No, he was bad before Gase got over there.
He doesn't have any weapons.
I'm disappointed in Sam Darnold. He's a little China doll, and I'm disappointed. I understand what you're saying.
I think Sam Darnold goes somewhere else and has a career.
I hope so. As Stephen Handel says, the Jets is where people go to die. So let's go back to this spot here. Yes, it's square. It's so square to sit here and back the Giants. But I would like to. I just think that it's not that I don't think that the Bengals can show us value moving forward. It's just that this is just heartbreaking for this squad. Heartbreaking. And I'm not sitting here thinking that they're going to be capable of finding heart and a reason to move forward. So, the slot says bad O-line, backup quarterback for Bengals. Giants coming off bye. A Giants win, but can't lay the points. So, I think that the Giants' running game is improved. They're going to be able to hold on to the ball for a long time. Now, when Luton came in, Bevsy, I wanted the Jacksonville team total under. And I don't know why. I guess, sometimes we get overwhelmed with all the capping we have to do, and it shouldn't be happening right now. This should be a good football season for us because we don't have NBA and NHL taking so much of our time. And I should have taken the Jacksonville team total under week 2 after that nice start for Luton. Do you think there's a possibility that Finley has a really nice game like Luton did in his first one?
I mean, he can't do much worse than he did coming into that game. So, maybe he's a little more prepared. I mean, if you're Ryan Finley, how much are you preparing for your games? And I mean, you should always be prepared, but you have Joe Burrow. He's not getting benched, that. So, the only way you're getting in is with what happened. So, I don't know, maybe he has a better game. Maybe he actually gets through some progressions. But again, it's tough to get through progressions when you have no offensive line. That offensive line has been terrible. And like I said, the Giants' D looks decent. So, I mean, logically, it seems like an easy play for the Giants. I have my apprehension about it. And again, maybe it's just me getting in my own head, and maybe I'll have a completely different outlook on this on Sunday. But
no, I understand why you're hesitant. It is square activity to sit here with big road favorites, and I can understand being hesitant. And it was enough to give me pause on the Raiders. But here, the Cincinnati Bengals team total at 17.5. I just don't see them getting there. I don't see them getting there. And the only thing that's causing me to slow down is because of what the Jaguars and Luton did to me. David Sharp says Giants D hasn't allowed more than 20 points in the last 4 games. 5 games ago, they left 25 to Tampa. I think that the backing the Giants here is a must bet. Alvin Smith says, how can anybody lay points with New York? So are you going to make a move here, Bebsy, or is this no?
I'm not. I might on Sunday have a better idea of this, but right now I can't. Again, I can't lay points with the Giants.
Well, I'm going to.
Do it, Jimmy.
I know this is just so square, but I just don't see them being able to do anything here. Coming in off a bye. Okay, I look, this could be just ridiculously square, and I get it, but I have to take the Giants here. I see it so deflating. I just don't see this as a Bengals squad that has a guy like Joe Mixon coming back who's going to say, hey, guys, just give me the rock. I'll take care of everything, or at least give us hope. I don't see this as a young defense. It's like, watch what we can do. Look, I can understand staying off, and this is being a very public play. Let's just see how public it is right now. I don't want to be – it's so public. Jesus. That's just crazy. 88% of the cash, 94% of the tickets. And what, just because I'm worried about being embarrassed because it's a square playout? Look, I'm pulling the trigger on the Giants. I'm going to double up. First half full game. I'm going to take the Bengals team total under 17.5. If it's something I don't like, I'm sure it'll be at 15.5 on Sunday. Okay. All right, let's move on to Browns, Jaguars. This is the other possible survivor spot here. But the more I talk about it, the more I'm leaning towards backing the Giants. Okay, let's go. Cleveland, Jacksonville, and the main thing with Jacksonville right now that we've got to use in our preparation is we have no idea who's starting at quarterback. This total opened up at 46.5. It's gone up to 48.5 for 49. Cleveland opened up at minus 6.5. You can get it anywhere between 6.5 or 7. 7-3 Browns, 2-2 on the road at Jacksonville Jaguars, 1-9-1-4 at home. Browns coming off 22-17 home win over the Eagles without the services of Myles Garrett, who was on the COVID list. Olivier Vernon stepped up in a huge way, 3 sacks and a safety. Baker Mayfield, 12-22, 204 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He did fumble twice, losing one of them. Nick Chubb ran 20 times for 104 yards. Gaddarrell Hodge led the receivers with 3 catches for 73 yards. Safety Ronnie Harrison, a major bright spot of late, hurt his knee in the first series. He didn't return. It's been called a bone bruise. They're all very thankful over in Cleveland. He's questionable to go this week, but it's not bad. Denzel Ward, calf strain, multiple weeks. Gone for multiple weeks. Safety, Sheldrick Redwine, listed as questionable with a knee injury. And then we get to Jacksonville, and this is what adds the layers to the trickiness here. Coming off their 9th straight loss, 27-3 setback to the Steelers. Luton did not look good, 16-37, 151 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So we're not – okay, the one thing I can bet on is we're not going to see Jake Luton. We might see Mike Glennon. And we might see Gardner Minshew. And the fact that this total has gone up to 49 leads me to believe that people think Minshew is going to play. He's resumed throwing last week. Jacksonville finished with a season low 206 yards. That's the lowest for the team since 2018 finale at Houston. They went 4-13 on third down. James Robinson continues to be the lone bright spot. 17 rushes for 73 yards. DJ Shark led the receivers with 4 catches for 41 yards. Offensive tackles Cam Robinson and Jawan Taylor were getting beaten badly by Bud Dupree and TJ Watt. Defensive end Josh Allen injured his left knee. He avoided ligament damage, but he's going to be out for considerable time. So you have Josh Allen out. Cornerback DJ Hayden hurt his knee. He's going to be out for multiple weeks. Chris Claybrooks injured his groin. He's listed as questionable. Safety Daniel Thomas hurt his arm in the second half. He's gone on injured reserve. Look at the left guard Andrew Nowell was ruled out in the third quarter with an arm injury. He's listed as doubtful. Laviska Shenault, cornerback Sidney Jones, tight end James O'Shaughnessy are all listed as questionable to go this week. Bebsy, take it away. Browns, Jags.
Well, first, I want to make note of something Prince of the City said. How shit is the NFL with all these bad games? There's literally the only game that was supposed to be good this week is the Ravens so far that we've gone through is the Ravens-Steelers game, which is fucked completely because of COVID. Like it's shit game after shit game. It's right. We're talking about the Browns and the Jags here, and to be honest with you, I think it's Jags or no play because if Minshew comes back, I think they can cover because the 2 best players on the Browns defense, Myles Garrett and Ward, are not playing, and without those 2 guys, they're not inept, they're not useless. But if Minshew comes back and those guys aren't in, this is Gardner Minshew trying to show the NFL world that he is worth taking on as a quarterback. So everything for the Jags makes sense here, but I can't bet it. I can't bet the Jags in this spot. I like Robinson. I think he's a solid running back. He's overperformed from what we expected, especially with not a very good team. Luton has been atrocious, but look, if Minshew comes back, I like the Jags. There's value. You might see this come down, but I can't bet this. I can't bet Cleveland right now. There's no value in it unless it's just, the Chubb and Hunt show and the Jags can't ever get their hands on the ball. That's how Cleveland wins this game. But then again, that just leads to an under or the Jags being able to cover. So got to find out who's playing quarterback. For me, again, it's another game I got to sit and wait till Sunday to look at further. But right now, it's Jags or no play.
71 Fahrenheit showers. Showers expected all day at this point and all day Saturday. So we have showers that supposed to start around 6 in the morning and into Monday. So that's the deal with the weather. Desar's right. The weather won't help the Browns deep. Well, I guess this is a chance to take a breath. I don't need to do anything here. I can just sit back and wait and see what happens with the quarterback situation. And that'll be my plan.
So we look at on the Sunday show and have a much better idea of what we're looking at here. And I don't care if I'm not trying to beat line movement. If Minshew comes back and the gap closes, I still think I have a better idea.
Yeah. Our friend, OG Lowbagger, whom we love dearly, who's also such a spectacular capper, Noli knows, he has been having a tricky time with unders this year where the quarterbacks can make all the adjustments at the line of scrimmage because there's no crowd. So what he started doing was just started hammering Browns unders and just focusing on that. And it's been 3 weeks of glory. Bebsy and I were on the Browns under this past week, and no concerns. Okay, that's a wait and see. Let's move on to Panthers-Vikings. And the Vikings win was huge for us in the survivor pools. Vikings were ahead by a lot and went down in flames. It was extremely enjoyable to watch. Panthers-Vikings. Vikings opened up at -4.5. There are 4.5s and 4s on the board. This total opened up at 49. We see 49s and some 48.5s. Panthers 4-7, 2-3 on the road. Vikings 4-6, 1-4 at home. Panthers coming off an impressive 20-0 home shutout of the hapless Lions. Snapped their 5-game losing streak. They were missing Teddy Bridgewater, Christian McCaffrey, offensive lineman Russell Okung and John Miller, and cornerback Dante Jackson. All 5 remain questionable to go this week. P.J. Walker threw for 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions in his first NFL start. And this defense, this much maligned defense of the Panthers, first shutout since 2015. As I mentioned in the Detroit breakdown, they had allowed their last 4 opponents had put up a combined 131 points on them while scoring 27 to 36 possessions were shut out by the Lions. Mike Davis looked better, ran 19 times for 64 yards. DJ Moore caught 7 passes for 127 yards. Defensive end Brian Burns had 2.5 sacks. Guard Dennis Daly left in the second quarter with concussion. He's in concussion protocol. Safety Sam Franklin is also out. What do you think of that shutout against the Lions? And do you have interest in these Panthers against the Vikings?
Like we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. Nobody expected a shutout, but obviously injuries to Detroit played a huge factor in that. So I'm not going to put too much stock in this. I don't think Carolina's defense has arrived. They shut out an injured Detroit team. Let's pump the brakes on the excitement here. But again, this is another game. There's just a ton of injuries. Thielen's got COVID. Who knows what's the story with McCaffrey and Teddy? A lot of question marks. Again, this is a Sunday look. This is a game you revisit on Sunday. You have a better idea who's going to play, who isn't. You make the decision then. But I mean, right now, I feel like the obvious play is Minnesota, but Thielen has been surging as of late. He's been an absolute monster in the red zone. And as great as Jefferson is, I mean, part of the reason he's so great is because Thielen draws a lot of that attention. Cook, a quieter week, so you'll look for him to bounce back and play another great game this week. But again, sit back, wait, learn a little bit more about this. Right now, I lean Minnesota if you gave me a free play, but a lot of uncertainties. So, I'm going to sit back and watch this one.
Vikings coming off that very disappointing 31-28 loss home to the Cowboys. After 3 straight wins over NFC North opponents, climb back into contention. This loss hurt. Cousins, 22 of 30, 314 yards, 3 TDs, and a fumble. Good numbers, but 2 for 7 on the final 2 possessions when they needed them most. Didn't come through. Dalvin Cook, 27 for 115 yards, 1 touchdown. It's amazing, Bevsy, that Dalvin Cook is playing at a level where he could bounce back from that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're putting up, 200 scrimmage yards week after week or close to it, and you come out with a 115er, and again, he was, like a lot of that came a little bit. It's not like he came bursting out of the gates with that too. So just he is still a very good week, and it feels like an off week.
Brett Jones replaced right guard Ezra Cleveland. That's the 4th different starter at right guard this season. And they got tight end Irv Smith Jr. back. He was out for a game. They also got cornerback Cameron Dantzler back. He was out for 2 games with a concussion. Whew. Very, very interesting. Trey Franklin, great to see you. And this, David Sharp says, this is your over 3.5 field goals game here. The Carolina-Minnesota spot.
I really want PJ Walker to be as good as he looked. I understand it was against a bad and beat up Detroit defense, but man, this guy's story is great. He cut by 12 NFL teams, gets picked up in the XFL, lights up the XFL. I mean, that's not saying too much, but man, I didn't watch that game. I went back and watched highlights of it afterwards, so I didn't really see him doing bad. Man, he threw some dimes in that game. So I hope he can hang on and be. I don't think he's going to be a stud, but he looked great.
Yeah, I like him too. At this point, I agree that the Panthers and the points is that I like. I just wish the Vikings had won. Then I wouldn't think that they would come out as angry as they're probably going to come out. And you know what? In fact, that will likely keep me off the game. Let's say that PJ Walker is the starting quarterback in this spot, Bebsy, and you see a total of 48.5. What's your feel? You go over or under?
I mean, if PJ keeps rolling, I like this over. But again, like, is PJ starting? Is Teddy back? There's just so much uncertainty here that I don't know. My instinct says over because I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, and feels like over's been hitting more. So yeah, I don't have a strong lean one way or the other on that.
Let's move on to Tennessee Titans at Indianapolis Colts. This is now because of the COVID issues hanging over the Ravens Steelers game. Looks like will be the game of the week. Titans 7-3, 3-1 on the road at the Colts, 7-3, 4-1 at home. And the Colts, I want to back. Colts opened up as 4-point favorites. That's now 3.5. Not only that, but if you want them at 3.5, you're going to get plus money beside it. Plus 100 at the worst of times. Tennessee coming off an impressive 30-24 overtime win at Baltimore. And the way I see it, Baltimore's bad with the injuries that they're struggling with. And bad's too harsh. But the fact that they're so vulnerable up the gut changes so much from this Ravens team that we know so well. The Titans scored at least 30 points for the first time since October 18th. They outgained Baltimore 423-306. Tannehill went 22-31 for 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Derrick Henry rushed 28 times for 133 yards and the game-winning 29-yard overtime touchdown. Corey Davis and Brown were shut out in the first half. That's questionable. Now, Davis caught 5 passes and 113 yards in the second half and looked very good. Brown caught 4 or 5 passes for 62 yards in the second half as well. 14-yard TD reception. And he broke 4 tackles to do it. It was unbelievable. The defense struggled again. I see this as a vulnerable Titans team. 9 of 15. The Ravens went 9 of 15 on third down. Now, the Titans' red zone defense was strong. So they held the Baltimore to 3 field goals on 4 trips inside the 20. So let's talk about exactly why I want to fade the Titans. And it starts with Jaylen Brown. Leading tackler. I don't know if you saw the elbow injury, but it was ugly. Dislocated, fractured elbow, done for the season. Left tackle, Ty Sambrailo, who replaced Taylor Lewin, left in the fourth quarter, and he's hurt. Roger Saffold, the left guard, missed the game with an injured ankle. He's still questionable to play. Jadeveon Clowney, even though he can't be trusted, he's on injured reserve. Adam Humphries, wide receiver. Cornerback Adoree Jackson. Safety Kenny Vaccaro. Defensive tackle Leo Murchison. Tight end McCole Pruitt are all listed as questionable. I see this as a vulnerable Titans team. Let's not get into the Colts. I've been talking for too long, but I want to fade this Titans team, Bebsy. What are you thinking here?
I mean, I'm kind of with you on this too. There is question marks about Rivers and if he's going to play or not. Look, Rivers, we all know he can't throw the ball very well anymore, but what he does well and what he did well in winning that Packers game was just make the smart play, make easy throws. But I don't know if Brissett plays, is that worse? Like, are they that much worse off? Is Brissett good enough now, or has he learned enough now, or is the team around him good enough now that it doesn't matter as much? I agree with you. I see a very vulnerable Titans team. The fact that they got smacked by the Colts earlier this year is difficult. You know, you feel like they're playing for a sense of pride, but I'm with you. I don't know if the Ravens win, if we can put a ton of value in that. The Ravens are banged up in the most vulnerable spot playing a team like the Titans. When you lose Calais Campbell, now you're giving all that, that middle of the line to Henry to smash. I don't think Henry can smash against this Colts defense if Buckner and Leonard, if Leonard's healthy, which he is, he's playing. You got DeForest Buckner, who is just a space-eating monster, and then you got Darius Leonard, who's all over the field. This screams Colts, with or without the Rivers injury, which I do think is a factor. I don't know how much of a factor, but I mean, this is – I'm with you. I feel like it's fade Tennessee right now.
I really do. I really think it's fade Tennessee right now, and I do not think now. You know, when you're talking about 39-year-old quarterback, the toe injury for me. I don't know if I was just so bullish on the Colts when I was studying this, and I wasn't so bullish that I didn't already bet it. We saw the market moving towards the Titans, but I didn't even add it into my notes, the toe injury. I think he plays. Colton's coming off the impressive 34-31 overtime home win over the Packers. After being down 28-14 at the half, they held the Packers to 3 points the rest of the way. Over the final 33 minutes, they forced 3 fumbles and an interception. They held Aaron Jones to 41 yards on 10 carries. They limited Green Bay to 18 offensive snaps over the final 2+ quarters. Rivers was 24-36, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, and he's having fun. Jonathan Taylor ran 22 times for 90 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. caught 3 passes for 66 yards. You know what else is fun? When rookies are leading the way on the ground and through the air. That's just fun with a 39-year-old quarterback who's got 9 kids and doesn't want to go home. Right tackle Braden Smith and Danico Autry were on the COVID list. They could easily come back. Cornerback Isaiah Rodgers is listed as questionable. This is a very healthy squad. I think this is to get the so I love the way the whale capper sells points, never buys them. So I looked at +4. I'm only getting 10 cents, +110, but +3.5 and +100. That's talking my language, man. I really feel like. Muhammad says Colts are a very good team. They got lucky, very lucky last week. I agree with that. Dutch Boy Fresh joining us, our guy Dutchy. Great to see you. St. Lawrence says Old Man Rivers did not look so old last week. Like Bebsy said, he did the right thing consistently. I expect more of that.
Well, that's the thing is I think Rivers is at least accepted his limitations and is not trying to do too much with the ball now, which, the week 1, he came out thinking, man, I'm Phillip Rivers. I've had a great career. I'm going to light up this Jags team. And he cost them that game, but I think they've compartmentalized what he needs to do, which is just don't give the ball away. Get your running game going, which, they have a solid 1-2 punch right now with Taylor and Hines. Imagine if they still have Mack too, but And Mike Pittman Jr. is balling out for them right now. He's playing great. I really like the way the Colts have looked. I was high on Green Bay last game, and look, the Colts, not only did they come back and win that game, but they had like 17 straight holding calls late in that game, and they still got it done.
I like David Sharp's thinking. I'm very nervous being on the other side of Alvin Smith a lot on this card. I like his thinking on the Colts team total. What do you think about this defense for the Titans? Do you trust them? And now that they've lost their leading tackler, who's done for the season, that's a huge, huge loss. It's not a well-known name, so he's not being talked about enough. But Jaylen Brown, that's going to hurt them. Don't you think that's I don't know, maybe devastating is too much, but that's a huge loss, right, Bebsy?
Well, anytime you lose your leading tackler, sure. Yeah, that's a big loss. I did see, like, Desmond King made a few impact plays last week. And, again, I thought they got him for a song, which helps their secondary. But, again, they're, losing your leading tackler, question marks on the O-line with injuries. Saffold is huge. I brought this up last week. He's so important. Again, like, they were banged up in their line, and the Ravens were banged up on their line. So it still allowed them, but it took Derrick Henry a long time to get going in that game, as it often does. But I don't know. This just feels like the Colts are the better football team, top to bottom. They're healthier. I don't see how Tennessee's defense stops the Colts, and I do see how the Colts defense stops Tennessee.
Now, the Colts are a tricky squad. When you expect them to step up, they fall flat, and then they get their shit together. They haven't been a good squad to double up on first half full game. And I'm going to do just that, though. I'm going to double up on the Colts. Going to get first half -2.5. Going to get that -3.5 at plus money. And I'm going to stay away from the Colts team total, but I'll keep an eye on it. The full game total here is at 51, so it's gone up from the 49.5. I wonder how high it gets. Alceric says, go watch the breakdown of Tennessee wearing down the Ravens over 4 quarters. I just see this Ravens.
But that's not like that's been their game plan all year. I really like Brian Baldinger's breakdowns. I think he's way better at that than anything else he's done booth-wise in football. But that's been their game plan all year long, has been wear the other teams down, and then Henry takes over in the fourth quarter or second half if it comes earlier. But yeah, as the Czar is saying, Ravens are missing Calais Campbell. That's how you beat them up and tear them down. And look, the other again, Darius Leonard healthy, looking good.
There's a role that Phillip Rivers is in, and this toe injury is not going to stop him.
No, it's not like he's running the ball much anyways. But
so I hear what you're saying, C-Mac. You are a wise man. You are a sage. But I'm making moves here. I want that plus beside the 3.5, and I really think Phillip plays. Okay, let's move on. Bebsy, nothing for you. We can circle back. We're going to circle back on the Washington Football Club.
Yeah.
And moving on the Colts.
The only reason, my only apprehension is if I can get a 3.
Yeah. Well, you could pay for a 3, which I don't think is a good move. The 3, paying for the 3 is -125. But I like that plus line beside the -3.5.
Yeah.
Well, we can circle back.
Let's circle back.
Let's move on to Chargers Bills. This is another spot that I wanted to move on before the show started, but the market was not moving at all. And I want the Chargers here at plus 5.5. Bills coming off the bye week. That used to be a very helpful thing. And maybe it will be again next year. But this year, who's going to come back with COVID? Nobody yet, but this testing is all messed up. You can be negative one day and positive the next. Chargers, Bills, it's been sitting at 5.5. There's been no movement. This total opened up at 52. It's up to 53.5. Understandably so with the way the Bills are playing. Chargers coming off a 34-28 home win over the Jets. Herbert, 37-49, 3 touchdowns. And I don't have his yards here. I don't know why I didn't write it, but, what, Bebsy, you cashed the Herbert prop in the first half, did you, or were you 10 yards away from it?
He was 2.5 yards off of the prop in the first. I think the prop I got in it was 279.5, and he had 277 in the first half. And that upsets me so much. So he was off of a career low, and I know we're talking about one season. Let's just say season low. But that's when you back a guy on a prop. It just, in basketball, football, it just seems to come in all the time. I stayed off the Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a big part of it. I stayed off the Alex Smith prop, even that completion prop, which I did understand made sense, but because he was coming off a 390-yard game and he was way under in his completions, yards, everything. Herbert was a monster. First rookie quarterback with 5 games with 3 or more touchdowns. That 39-yard touchdown pass to Mike Williams made him the 5th quarterback in league history to reach 20 touchdown passes in 9 or fewer games. In that first half, he had 23 completions, 31 attempts, and 277 yards. That's the most by a rookie since at least 1991. They were up 24-6 at the break. I think the final score actually helps me because they got sloppy and left their foot off the gas, and we know who to blame. Anthony Lynn. Chargers are desperately missing Austin Eckler. He could be back this week. As soon as he's announced back, that's going to move it to 5. Chargers running game was non-existent. They ran 26 times for 29 yards. They had one run that was like for minus 24 yards that skewed it. But Keenan Allen was spectacular. Franchise record 16 catches for 145 yards. Defensive end Uchenna Nwosu injured his shoulder, did not return, and he's expected to miss 3 weeks. So that hurts. Cornerback Casey Hayward, groin injury, did not return after being injured in the second half. He still says questionable. And they played the game without Kaiser White. There's your leading tackler that's on the reserve COVID list that didn't play, that's very likely to be back in the lineup. I expect Kaiser White and Austin Eckler in the lineup. And then what's the number going to be? Bebsy, we'll get into the Bills in a second. Am I too high on the Chargers here?
Yeah, I think you're a little high on the Chargers just because I think the Bills are coming back healthy. They desperately needed a bye to get some of those guys who were half in, half out on a lot of these games. So I think you could finally see their defense play well because a lot of these guys had that 2-week break that they needed. But again, look, Justin Herbert has shown time and again he can put up points. He can put up points against good defenses. I feel like he's rejuvenated Keenan Allen's career. They get up, they play well, and then they blow the game. So you got to wonder if they can cover. And I think they can. So I don't think you're crazy to be high on them. I just think I think you could see a healthy Bills squad this week finally. But my question is, what Bills squad are we going to see? Healthy or not, they've been streaky. They've had so many games where I'm just sitting there being like, oh, well, they're going to come out and smash this week, and then they don't. They play terrible. They come out limping. Again, I was bullish on them after the after that victory against the Patriots, I really feel that was a big mental lift for them. They ended up covering in that covering in a weird way in that heartbreaking loss with the Hail Murray. But the Bills are frustrating the hell out of me because I don't know who shows up. I don't know if they limp out of the gates and end up playing great in the second half. At the start of the year, they were coming out firing, and then they'd hang on for wins. I don't know what to make of this Bills team.
Understandably so. Coming in fresh off their bye week, Bebsy mentioned that heartbreaking 32-30 loss. Josh Allen, 32 of 49, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Also ran 7 times for 38 yards. Moss and Singletary did nothing. 11 carries for 35 yards combined. But Beasley, Diggs, and Brown are a three-headed monster. Beasley, 11 catches for 109 yards. Diggs, 10 catches for 93 yards. Brown, 6 catches for 71 yards. He tweaked his ankle and is listed as questionable. Defensive end, A.J. Epinesa, he's in concussion protocol, and they need him back. But offensive tackle Cody Ford, right back Tywan Jones are both listed as questionable. And Stephen Hannell saying Brown might not play. Dutch Boy Fresh says Chargers first half +3 or +155. I also think it's interesting what Muhammad is saying about Anthony Lynn, saying that the Bills are going to throw. He's going to be forced to throw. There's a lot of love right now for this over, Bebsy. And also, when you have a 5.5-point spread and you know that there's going to be points scored, that the Chargers team total over has been cashing consistently, and that's at 23.5, Bebsy. 23.5. Does that not sound very low? That sounds so low to me.
They've certainly been cashing that on the regular, so I don't know if that changes things. Alvin Smith asked a couple of times what I think about the first half. What is our first half line here?
Sorry, let me move back. It is 3.
See, my apprehension with
that. Sorry, just to interrupt. And this is so important. I thought I mentioned it. It's gorgeous on Sunday. We have rain, some shitty weather this week, and then come the weekend, it's 50 Fahrenheit, 48 Fahrenheit, sunny, beautiful, warm for this time of year. Sorry, Bebsy, take it away.
No, look, I think, like I said, the Bills are healthy, and I think they're going to come out firing, but the Chargers have been able to consistently put up points in the first half. They've looked great in the first half of a lot of games. It's, like Jimmy said, it's Anthony Lynn shit in the bed and not figuring out how to close out games. So as much as I like the Bills to come out strong, I almost feel like the Chargers can match them every step of the way.
I agree, and I want to be bullish on this game, and I don't want to the way I see it right now, I would like to leave – in case the Bills come out flying, which is very possible, beautiful sunny day, off the bye, I want to leave that backdoor cover up available. So this is how I plan to move on this. Princess City says, why not the first half over? Again, look, I could take Chargers first half and full game. I could take first half and full game over, and I could take Chargers team total over. And I don't want, at $200 a pop, I don't want 5 bets on this game. So what I'm going to do is move on 3 bets. I'm going to take the Chargers full game, Chargers team total over, and then the full game over. That's my plan of attack. Bebsy, we got to keep rolling. You are so gracious with your time, but we are an hour 43 minutes into the show. How would you like to handle this spot here?
I kind of like Prince of the City's look with the first half points over.
Yeah. So, do you want to move on it? Princess City. Hey, man, your dollar's dropping. It's hurting us. We want your dollar strong, POC.
Yeah, man, you know what? I think I am going to jump on that. Thanks, Prince.
All right, and that's your only move.
Yeah, that's my only move for now, but I might circle back around to this again on Sunday.
All right, let's go to odds.com and shop for you. Here we go. Odds.com, odds page. I'm moving over to totals First half. Let's go. Bebsy wants that first half over in Bills, Chargers. This is going to be a fun game. This might be a game of the week. Bills, Chargers. And I wish the Bills' defense was stronger. And, it may be off the bye. They have a banged-up linebacking core that's very talented that's not been playing at full capacity. Here we go. Where are we? Sorry. Come on, we can't still be on the 1 o'clock games, are we? Jesus, we're still on the 1 o'clock games, Pepsi. It's almost 2 hours in. 26. There's a 26. Wow. 26 and a half. There's a 27 at FanDuel, but I can give you a 26 at PointsBet minus 115.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
First half over 26 a minus 115 at PointsBet for Bebsy. Okay, let's keep rolling. And thank you guys so much.
It's time for the speed round. Let's go.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for rolling with us for hours upon hours. Okay, we move on to Dolphins, Jets, still in the 1 o'clock games. There's not many 4 o'clock games. So. Dolphins, Jets, Dolphins 6-4, 3-2 on the road. Jets 0-10, 0-5 at home. Dolphins opened up as 7-point favorites. That hasn't moved. This total opened up at 46. It's dropped to 44.5. Dolphins coming off an ugly 2013 loss at Denver, snapped their 5-game winning streak. Tua Tagovailoa was 11 for 20, 83 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 6 times before being benched for Fitzmagic. Fitzmagic will not be starting this week. They're going to go back to Tua. Salvon Ahmed ran 12 times for 43 yards. Devontae Parker caught 6 passes for 61 yards. Guard Solomon Kinley was forced out of Sunday's game with a foot injury. He's listed as questionable, and he's the only guy on the injury report. Jets coming off 34-28 loss at the Chargers. Flacco 15-30, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 4th game he started in place of Sam Darnold. Frank Gore ran 15 times for 61 yards. Denzel Mims, 3 catches for 71 yards. They were down 24-6 at the half. They had a season low 82 yards in the first half. Flacco was 3 of 8 for 30 yards. He didn't complete a pass to a wide receiver in the first half. The Chargers couldn't run the ball and kept throwing to Keenan Allen over and over again, and there was nothing that the Jets could do about it. Running back LaMichael Pirine and offensive tackle George Fant both suffered ankle injuries, did not return. Pirine is now out for a few weeks with a high ankle sprain. So it's going to be the Frank Gore show. He's fine with that. Fant is listed as questionable with a sprained ankle. Sam Darnold, Blake Cashman, their linebacker, offensive tackle Chuma Edoga are all listed as questionable. Bebsy, take it away. Dolphins, Jets.
I mean, if the Jets are going to make a play at a win, I feel like this is the game. Although I can't bet on the Jets, I need to know who's playing quarterback for both teams. I don't know. Is Tua? Are they going to put him back in there?
Yeah, they said
could. This would be a good week for him to build some confidence after an awful week against the Denver Broncos. And then who's playing quarterback for the Jets? Is Darnold back? Is he – because I don't have any faith in Flacco. I also don't know why Flacco's not taking more chances. I mean, dude, we know your career is pretty well over. Why don't you take some shots? Why don't you spread that ball around? You stretch the field a bit. Show somebody that you're worth hiring. I personally wouldn't touch Flacco. I can't stand him, but I don't know. This to me is, find out if Darnold's playing. I like Miami here, but again, those Jets know how to cover. So for me, again, no play on this. At least until Sunday, I might have a better idea. If Darnold's in, I might lean Jets.
I like that idea. I like Darnold in, but if Darnold's in, do you still get the +7? Probably moves to 6 or 6.5.
Yeah, I don't know if it moves too much, but
I understand that.
The Jets have been covering.
Birdie says I'm on the Jets and Jags this week. So he should just burn his money now.
I mean, that's a really tough thing to do, Birdie, and I admire your courage.
Okay. Move on to afternoon action. No move for us at this point on the last 1 o'clock game. from rotation numbers. We have 5 games left, so I think actually it's not so bad, Bebsy, with all the games that we are attacking. Okay, let's move on to Saints-Broncos. Saints-Broncos. Saints 8-2, 3-1 on the road, going to Mile High, 4-6, 2-3 at home. It's imperative that we know what the weather is going to be like in Colorado, as it changes so much and so drastically. And Sunday is gorgeous. Not as gorgeous as Saturday, but no weather issues. And we've had very few weather issues this year. Saints are coming off 24-9 beatdown of the Falcons. Taysom Hill was spectacular. Spectacular might be a little much, but I think he's better than Drew Brees at this point. 18-23, 233 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1 fumble. But he had such a tough career at BYU with injuries, and Peyton has handled him so perfectly. I mean, he's played in 46 games before his first start, and he's a special dynamic quarterback. He ran 10 times for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Saints as a team ran 36 times for 168 yards. And that's because you're so concerned about Taysom Hill that Latavius Murray, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray ran 12 times for 49 yards. Kamara ran 13 times for 45 yards. Michael Thomas caught 9 passes for 104 yards. And the team is used so differently when Taysom Hill is a quarterback than Drew Brees. Michael Thomas, 9 catches for 104 yards, but Taysom Hill barely looked Kamara's way. 0 catches and was targeted once. I wonder if we can abuse that in the player prop scenario, or is Taysom Hill going to feel bad and want to switch that up? It's a very interesting statistic. Kamara did become the first player in NFL history with at least 500 yards rushing and receiving in each of his first 4 seasons. The Saints defense was dominant. They sacked Matt Ryan 8 times. Cameron Jordan delivered 3 of them. New Orleans' second-ranked run defense held Atlanta to 52 yards rushing. Saints defense did not allow a touchdown for the second time in 3 games. Only 1 touchdown given up in between. Left guard Andreas Pete left with a concussion. He's in concussion protocol. Deontay Harris left with a stinger in the first half. He's listed as questionable. Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, running back Dwayne Washington, tight end Josh Hill are all questionable to go this week. Before we go into the Broncos, tell me about what you think on these Saints and how strong they are. Are they better with Taysom Hill? Are you thinking of backing them this week?
Look, I'm with Al Cervic here. I don't think Taysom Hill is going to look as good versus Denver this week. I just think the defensive mind of Vic Fangio will do a much better job containing him. I do agree with you, Jimmy, when you say this could be a chance to take advantage of player props on Kamara. Look, I don't think they're better or worse with Taysom Hill, the Saints. I think some things open up, i.e. the deep ball. Drew Brees can't barely throw a ball 20 yards anymore. So that is opened up. Drew Brees is still – he's good at what he's good at, which is getting through his reads, making the right play. You know, he's a lot like Phillip Rivers in the sense that as long as he's not trying to do too much, he plays really well. But, you know, Drew Brees' arm's shot, so it doesn't open things up downfield like Taysom Hill does. But, again, like – I really do believe Vic Fangio will have a better game plan for him than Atlanta did. And just I think the Broncos are a better team than Atlanta is. So the Saints really do feel like they're surging. They're rounding into playoff form right at the right time. This injury for Brees, these ribs, if they don't stick with him all year, might be the best thing for the Saints, because you're going to see more of Hill. You're going to see more of what he can do. So that it's good for them gearing up for the playoffs. But, yeah, I don't know. I see value in the Saints, especially because Denver probably has a bit of recency bias because they just beat Miami. So if you are going to jump on the Saints, I'd say jump on them now, because I feel like those could be gone by the weekend. But, for me, there's nothing I love enough to jump on at this moment.
Yeah, I don't want the Saints as this big of a road favorite, even though they look so strong defensively.
I'll tell you what, I think Taysom Hill playing in Denver is a lot better for the Saints than Drew Brees playing in Denver, because those old brittle bones don't do well in that altitude and cold weather in Denver.
Yeah, I agree. I think absolutely it's a good point. Broncos coming off 2013 win at home over the Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, 6 times he was sacked by this Broncos squad. Drew Lock, 18 of 30, 270 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He wasn't sacked at all on Sunday. And he threw his 11th interception right away. That is his league high 6th straight game with an interception. Came on his second throw and then started looking good. Tim Patrick caught 5 passes for 119 yards. He looks great. Melvin Gordon stepped up 15 runs for 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. Phillip Lindsay bounced back. I should have bet on him to bounce back after, 4 carries for 2 yards. It was a mistake. Safety Trey Marshall hurt his leg. He's listed as questionable. Offensive tackle Jake Rogers, guard Graham Glasgow, and linebacker Joe Jones are all questionable. Yeah, and I understand the total to take the under, but it's been bet down to 43.5 from 46, so I missed that privilege. And it's gorgeous weather. The only thing I guess I could do, because I can't trust the Broncos. I'm not going to take a team total against the Saints again this year. And what I could do is I could back this. Let's see what the Saints team total is. 25.5. Nah, I'll just stay off of it. This is a stay off at this point. Stephen Hennell says Saints money line and parlays. Gerald Jones says Hill went to BYU. He's played in altitude. That's a good point. All right. So, and Dan Kelly said Taysom Hill might have a big family contingent there. He's from Idaho. All right, so it's a stay off point. Princess Sue says, are we getting close to the most important game of the week? The Eagles. We are getting close. Do you have any move here, Saints Broncos, or do we move on, Bebsy?
Yeah, let's move on. I got nothing on this one.
Let's move to the Niners Rams. Niners Rams. We have the perfect capper for this game in Bebsy. Niners are 4-6, 3-2 on the road. Rams 7-3, 4-0 at home. Niners coming off their bye week. They were last seen in a 27-13 loss at the Saints. Mullins was 24-38, 247 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Brandon Ayuk came back, led the receiving core with 7 catches for 75 yards. Jerick McKinnon and JaMychal Hasty could not move the ball on the ground. As a team, the Niners ran 25 times for 49 yards. Kwan Williams is out now. Tevin Coleman could be back. Deebo Samuel could be back. What is the injury situation for the 49ers this week?
There's a chance they're going to get a bunch of reinforcements. Mostert could be back. Deebo Samuel could be back. Tevin Coleman could be back. Even Jeff Wilson Jr. could be back. But the other question now is they've got massive COVID concerns. They got like 10 guys as well that are currently stashed because of COVID, one being Trent Williams. So if Trent Williams is out, we saw in that Green Bay game just how much he means to that offensive line, which is already a shaky, injured offensive line. So Again, it's no play for me until you figure out if these guys can play or not. Now, if all these guys do end up playing, all these guys that are on the COVID list, and Mostert's back and Samuel's back, I think the Niners easily cover here. They always play the Rams tough. They are coming off of a bye, so this is the healthiest they've been in some time. So, yeah, this is a spot where the Niners can, at the very least, cover, possibly pull out an upset. Even Shanahan, with a better team, has had McVay's number as of late. I think they beat him 4 times in a row. But again, you need to know about these COVID players and if they're back. If Trent Williams is out, you just bet against the Niners. That's all there is to it. They're going to be useless without him. But Ayuk is on the COVID list. Their current center, who's their third string center, is on the COVID list. Like you mentioned, Kwan Williams is now out. He's a very important slot corner, but Sherman could be back. So it's all these guys could be back, might not be back, COVID, yada, yada. It's too tough to call. This is a Sunday look again.
Yeah, it sounds like Slats is banging on. Great spot for 49ers, somewhat healthy, because it's 7 right now, but 7.5s are coming very soon. A couple of books have moved 7.5, although at the 7.5, you get it's a plus line for the Rams at minus 7.5. Rams come in on a short week, fresh off their big 27-24 win at Tampa. Goff was 39-51 for 376 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods were spectacular. Kupp caught 11 passes for 145 yards. I've never seen him look better. I mean, he just looked so good, so quick, so smart. He was just incredible. Woods caught 12 passes for 130 yards and a touchdown. Their rushing game struggled against the Bucs, but Bucs have that great run defense, 37 yards and 20 carries. Rams have returned from their bye week with back-to-back victories over NFC contenders in the Seahawks and the Bucs. Rams are only 17th in the NFL in points per game. They've scored, that's at 24.3. They've scored more than 30 points just twice, but they have the NFL's top defense by yards allowed, 291.9. They held Brady and the Bucs to 251 yards, including just 113 after halftime. Linebacker Micah Kiser went out late with an apparent head injury. Tyler Higbee, their tight end, played with a protective device on his arm. McVay they didn't practice today. Oh, I guess, sorry, he didn't. They had a practice of some kind. He didn't speak to the media, and it wasn't not everybody was in equipment and pads. There's a couple issues here that are interesting, Bebsy. One is Aaron Donald, 0 tackles in the past 2 games. He had been held without a tackle just once in the 102 games. I was watching him closely, just watching only him on certain plays. And I know he's getting double teamed, but he just didn't seem nearly as dangerous. And he seemed to be settling often and not fighting through blocks and being double teamed. And I know he's taking a lot of heat. How good is this Rams defense? And what do you think of Donald? Take it away.
Well, I mean, I still think the world of Aaron Donald. I think he's the best defensive player in the NFL. I get what you're saying. He's had a couple of quiet weeks. He does get doubled and triple teamed a lot. And the other thing too is 2 games in a row, Daniel Brunskill, who's a backup, I think he's either playing center or guard, depending on who else is healthy. He has actually done a very good job containing Aaron Donald in their last 2 meetings and not allowing pressure. But I don't know, maybe Aaron Donald's saving himself up for this game. They got embarrassed by a beat-up Niners team the last time they played, and Aaron Donald got called out after that game. So this could be a revenge spot for Aaron Donald. I also think they match up particularly well against certain teams, and given their strengths and their weaknesses. Nick Mullins scares me facing Donald because, for all the flack that Jimmy G takes, I mean, he stands in and takes punishment even when pressure's coming up the middle. Nick Mullins doesn't really do the same. He tends to get a little weary. We saw that in the Philly game when he threw that game away, which should have been a very easy Niners victory. And the other thing is Jalen Ramsey. I feel like he's another guy you stop talking about him because nobody even looks at him sometimes. He matched up well because he's one of the few guys in the league that can cover DK Metcalf one-on-one. And it was a lot like he's starting to look a lot like Patrick Peterson at the height of Patrick Peterson's career, where people stop talking about him because nobody goes in that direction. So this is a great this is a very good Rams defense, a legit Rams defense. But again, McVay is a disciple of Kyle Shanahan. So Kyle Shanahan knows what McVay is doing. He knows that offense so well. And that combined with Saleh being a very good D coordinator, and even with their injuries, they're able to dial up pressure and frustrate McVay and Goff. So again, wait and see what's happening with these injuries, but the Niners are more than capable of covering this.
I agree. This will be a fun game to break down on Sunday when we have more information. Move on to the 425 spot. 3 games left on the card. Chiefs at Buccaneers. Kansas City opens up at -3. That quickly moves to 3.5. This total opens up at 53, and that quickly moves to 56. Chiefs 9-1, 5-0 on the road. Bucks 7-4, 3-2 at home. Chiefs coming off a 35-31 win at Las Vegas. Mahomes 34 for 45, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was 14-69 for 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell 7 for 25 for 1 touchdown. Travis Kelce caught 8 passes for 127 yards. Tyreek Hill caught 11 passes for 102 yards. And when I watched them work, I was like, I've never seen the Chiefs really with only 2 weapons on through the air. And I was like, can't you come up with a defense if you know it's either going to Kelce or Tyreek Hill to slow them down? And Kelce might be so physically tough to stop. But with just 2 guys, I was like, man, I was shocked at watching this. Demarcus Robinson did catch 6 passes for 44 yards as a third option. Sammy Watkins was out again. McCole Hardman spent most of the week on the COVID-19 list. He was 1 catch for 16 yards. The defensive line could do nothing. That was very interesting in that game. 0 sacks and hit Carr once. Defensive back Bashard Breeland twice flagged for pass interference. Did not look good. The defense was called for 10 penalties that cost 89 yards. Right tackle Mitchell Schwartz been dealing with a back injury. He's now on injured reserve. Wide receiver Brian Pringle is questionable with an ankle injury. And then we have offensive tackle Martinez Rankin has been practicing, but he's still on injury reserve. Talk to me about this Chiefs defense. Are they susceptible, or does it not matter because their offense is so strong?
Well, I mean, you've seen how many times this offense has bailed this defense out last year, this year, just by being able to put up points regardless. And it's more of a question of the Bucs defense. Can the Bucs defense slow down this Chiefs offense? And I don't think they can. I mean, it almost feels like the Bucs defense is getting worse as the season goes on. I don't know how you bet the Bucs right now. They've played great in some spots. They've been horrendous in other spots. And frankly, here comes the chat to attack me right now. But Brady has been so inconsistent this year, and part of it's his age, part of it's a new system. But he's looked horrendous in primetime games. This isn't a primetime game, but it's a huge game. You're playing the defending Super Bowl champions, so. I don't know. Is Brady going to get up this week and play great, or is he going to continue to struggle and have errant throws or underthrows? Like, this is, to me, this is a really difficult spot because I don't know what Bucs team is going to show up. And I mean, with all those weapons, he's got to be able to bounce back and carve up a weaker Chiefs defense. But I just don't know if I see it. I have to see him play consistently well, which I'm sorry, chat, we have not seen that from Tom Brady this year. He has not been a consistent quarterback this year, despite having all his weapons. So I really don't know where I land on this one.
Understandably so. And it's interesting that these Chiefs open up at just -3 and clearly,
I agree with what Al Cervic's saying here. I think they do have too much going on. They didn't need to bring in Brown. I feel like that complicated and already there's so many mouths to feed on that offense. So you bring in a head case who wants the ball all the time, but he's right now he's the 3rd best receiver on that team.
Bucs coming off a short week. Yet another disappointing primetime performance in a 27-24 home loss on Monday Night Football. Birdie's right. If you guys want the Buccaneers, sit back and wait. Make this bet 10 minutes before game time, man. Brady looked bad. 26-48, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I had that over 3.5 field goals, and I know I'd already missed a field goal, and it was at +120. And when Brady was driving, I was like, oh, they're going to get in field goal range. That last interception was atrocious. I don't remember. The only time I saw Brady look that bad on the final drive was when he thought he had an extra down, when he threw that bomb late, and that made no sense. I couldn't believe that pass. It was one guy. There was three defenders. And then there was a fourth defender. It just Buccaneers failed to hit on deep passes. They did not have a completion over 18 yards. And I know that the Rams secondary is extremely good, but still, both of Brady's interceptions came on passes that were longer than 18 yards. Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette could do nothing on the ground, combined for 17 carries, 41 yards. I don't hate the Antonio Brown pickup. I think there's enough for Godwin and Evans. And Evans has really sat back and said, look, I don't need big numbers this year. And he's going to be the red zone target. And Antonio Brown has a lot of talent. I don't hate on it, but I understand your thought process there.
It was necessary to bring in him, given his history, his recent history. I don't think it was necessary. I don't think he brings up their offensive firepower enough to justify bringing in a head case.
No, I completely legitimate. Of the Bucs' 7 wins this season, only 2 have come against teams with winning records. Cornerback Jamel Dean is in concussion protocol. Tight end Tanner Hudson, guard Ali Marpet, who's so important, and offensive tackle Donovan Smith are all questionable. Brady says Brady's not even close to completing a pass over 25 yards. Not even close. This has to be dink and dunk offense, but they don't have dink and dunk players.
He's absolutely right. Birdie is spot on with that. And the other thing is Arians is not properly adjusting. Brady's been a dink and dunk quarterback for a while now. And, this is something I brought up in the offseason when he went there. I was like, you're going to go to Arians' offense. You're 43. Your arm is fading. It has been for a couple years. And you're going to go to a team – everywhere Arians has been. Like when he was the offensive coordinator for the Steelers, it's always been about airing that ball out. And Arians is not adjusting to what Tom Brady can do right now. And that's hurting them offensively. Of course, as you mentioned, Marpet not playing is huge. But look, and somebody else, I'm not sure who mentioned this anymore, but it was Connor Mack. Connor Mack mentioned that if Brady's throwing 50 times, they can't win. And look, if this game just ends up being a shootout, Brady, quite frankly, just can't keep up with Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's what Andy Reid is going to force in this game. I think he's going to come out with a game plan, which is put this ball up and make them try and chase.
Any move for you at this point, Bebsy? And what do you think of this total up to 56?
I would say over if I thought that Tampa could match them. I feel like I'm talking myself into taking Kansas City here.
Yeah. I wonder if there's any threes available for you without paying for it too much. Let me just check right now. Here we go. If you want a 3, it's going to cost you minus 132. Fox Bet's already moved it to 4. Wow. 3.5 are minus 110. And a lot of strong cappers here on Tampa. Wild. Bebsy, you want time?
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the Sunday nighter. 2 games left on the card. Thank you guys so much for rolling with us here. Odds.com. Chicago Bears at Green Bay Packers. Packers open up as 7.5-point favorites. It quickly moves to 8.5. This total opens up at 45.5. It's now at 40. Bears coming off their bye week. 5-5, 3-2 on the road. Packers 7-3, 3-1 at home. We last saw them drum up no offense whatsoever in a 19-13 loss at home to the Vikings on Monday Night Football. Foles went 15 for 26, 106 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, then got carried off on a stretcher due to hurt feelings. Cordero Patterson returned a kickoff 104 yards for a TD. Looked great, but he only gained 30 yards on 12 carries. David Montgomery remains questionable to play this week. Allen Robinson caught 6 passes for 30 yards. With both Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, supposedly Nick Foles is still nursing an injury. Nagy is waiting to see how both look this as the week progresses, but I think it's Trubisky's time. The reason why I lost the Bears bet was when Akeem Hicks suffered a strained right hamstring. I still think they could have stayed within a number if Akeem Hicks didn't go down. He's listed as questionable. He is so important. As soon as he went out, I mean, that defense changed drastically. Center Sam Mustipher, safety Sherrick McManus, nose tackle John Jenkins are all questionable to play. Then we have this Packer squad coming off a disappointing 34-31 overtime loss at Indianapolis. This marked the first time in LaFleur's 2-year coaching tenure that the Packers lost the game they led at halftime. They were held to 3 points in the second half. Aaron Rodgers, 27 of 38, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Aaron Jones was held to 10 carries for 41 yards, 1 touchdown. Devontae Adams caught 7 passes for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. They got 2 key players back in receiver Alan Lazard and cornerback Kevin King. But then they lost Corey Linsley to a back injury in the first quarter, their center. He did not return. He's listed as questionable. Packers entered the game leading the NFL in time of possession, 33-08. But they allowed Indianapolis to control the ball for over 35 minutes. Green Bay's offense had just 6 snaps in the third quarter. Bebsy, Bears, Packers, to me, this feels like too many points for the Packers. But it is a divisional game, so it's not like they'll overlook it. Why don't you take it away, my man?
No, I agree with you. It does feel like too many points, especially coming off a really tough loss for Green Bay. I do think they bounce back and win this game, but again, that's a lot of points to give in a divisional matchup with such a talented defense. So I mean, I can't back Chicago because how can I back Mitchell Trubisky if indeed he is the starter? But again, I think it's too many points to give. It's too many points for me, and even that unders or that the points total is sitting right at a spot where I don't like one way or the other. It's just. I was just about to say I got to see who's playing at quarterback, but does it matter? Is one worse than the other? They're both terrible. It's all about their defense being able to keep this close. So it really boils down to me thinking this is too many points, but not having any confidence putting money down on the Bears.
Yeah, either do I. And I still think the under is in play. The weather is cold, but not too cold. 34 Fahrenheit. At 8 o'clock at night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern in Green Bay. The real Jolly Roger says they're daring us to take the points, and I don't think I need to. But I think the under is in play here, even at 45. You think that number is too low, Bebsy?
I think it's too low just because if Green Bay can tire out this defense, which they're more than capable of doing. We know Aaron Rodgers is, a master at controlling the clock. And so that's when this Bears defense finally falters, is later in games when they've just not been able to, their offense keeps them on the field. So that's my concern with this, taking this under. The under is in play if it's a weaker offense facing them. But
I need Akeem Hicks back. No Akeem Hicks, no under. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean he's huge. He's so important.
Yeah, and at this point, it's possible David Montgomery comes back, and although he's not very good, Cordero Patterson, he's just not a running back, and he did an okay job. Charlie Chip says Green Bay can't defend. Well, they're playing the perfect team then.
Yeah.
And so if Akeem Hicks is back, I'm on the under. That's my plan. Akeem Hicks is back, I'm on the under. So I will wait and see at this point. Anything for you here, Bebsy, or do we move on to the Monday Nighter?
Let's move on to the Monday Nighter, baby.
The Monday Nighter. This is what Prince of the City has been waiting for.
Oh, I think this is what we've all been waiting for.
I think it'll be a fun Monday Nighter. Seattle Seahawks, 7-3, 2-3 on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles, 3-6-1, 2-2-1 at home. The Eagles open up as 5-point dogs. That moves to 50.5. This total opens up at 52 and goes down to 50.5. Seahawks are on extra rest and preparations after their big 28-21 win at home over the Cardinals on Thursday night. Russell Wilson, 23 of 38, 197 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He also ran 10 times for 42 yards, but he was playing conservative. He was making no mistakes. He'd committed 10 turnovers in the previous 4 games combined, and he was just smart. Carlos Hyde returned from injury. He ran 14 times for 79 yards. Tyler Lockett led the receivers with 9 catches for 67 yards, 1 touchdown. And DK Metcalf was held in check with 3 catches for 46 yards. But he did catch a TD pass. And we talked about if you have a big defensive back that can slow down DK Metcalf, what can the Seahawks do? And I should have been on the under. Seahawks sacked Murray 3 times, 7 quarterback hits. And as we talked about in the Cardinals breakdown, in that second Cardinals drive, Kyler Murray took a very hard hit from LJ Collier and Carlos Dunlap, left with a sore right shoulder. Tight end Greg Olsen tumbled to the ground on a non-contact injury. It looked bad. It turns out it's not as bad as it is when we see it in basketball. He was helped off the field. He tore his fascia in his foot. He's on injured reserve. But if the Seahawks make a big run in the playoffs, he'll be back. Carroll said 4 to 6 weeks, but it could be up to 2 months. They lost Brandon Shell, the right tackle, in the fourth quarter to sprained ankle. Guard Jordan Simmons, cornerback Shaquille Griffin, Ethan Pocic, offensive tackle Brandon Shell, who I spoke about, running backs Travis Homer and Chris Carson Ellis is questionable. And they brought up defensive tackle Snacks Harrison from the practice squad. They've already made that Carlos Dunlap pickup look good. Why not get Snacks out there? Let's talk about these Seahawks first. Are you interested in them as big road favorites on Monday night?
I mean, I think maybe not all of the chat will agree with me here, but Prince in the City will. Eagles smash. This is at least a 20-point victory for the Eagles. The Eagles are terrible. Carson Wentz has played 2 good games this year, and he's been abysmal in every other game. This is the only reason why you shouldn't hammer the Seahawks here is because in so many games all year long, the Seahawks have found a way to let bad teams linger or come back. And, you know, they're games decided by a field goal that should be an absolute light show, and they're not. Now, the Seattle defense remains abysmal, and there's no help on the way. Dunlap isn't changing that. He's the only real addition there. Even when it's not even a question of getting guys back from injury, they're just not a very good defense. Now, the Eagles suck everywhere except for their front 4 on their defensive line. So, and that frankly isn't enough to stop this Seahawks passing game. And again, the only reason I am not jumping on this is weird shit happens in Monday night games, and the Seahawks just have this thing where they want to win by a field goal. I don't know why. It always comes down to the last seconds, and it has no business in so many games coming down to that.
Yeah, well put. Well put. This total has gone from 52, opener bet 365, down to 50.5. It is at 51 at some books. Seems a little high, even though we are talking about the Seahawks. Eagles coming off a 22-17 loss at Cleveland. Wentz had another disappointing game, 21-35, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now it's 14 interceptions on the year. He was sacked 5 times. Wentz has been sacked a league-leading 40 times. Goddard caught 5 passes for 77 yards. He led the receivers and tight end. Miles Sanders ran 16 times for 66 yards. Starting center Jason Kelce hurt his elbow in the first half. And then they had to bring in undrafted rookie Luke Driga, and it was awful. Kelce did come back. It was forced to. Left tackle Lane Johnson hurt his shoulder in the second half. He's listed as questionable this week. Defensive tackle Fletcher Cox left with a leg injury. He's not on the injury report. I was trying to get more information on it. Defensive end Derek Barnett injured his knee. He came back and blocked a field goal. His cornerback Cravon LeBlanc, sorry, keep going French, rolled his ankle in the third quarter. He'll be out for a while with a high ankle sprain. Offensive tackle Jason Peters listed as questionable. Guard Nate Herbig and Rudy Ford are also listed as questionable. Do you agree with this total moving from 52 down to 50.5?
Yes, and again, that has everything to do with Wentz being terrible. But if Wentz is throwing pick sixes, maybe it goes over, and maybe Seattle finally just smashes a team. But again, like they find ways to keep the other team in the game. They're a very frustrating team to bet. And again, a lot of it boils down to the fact that they just have an awful defense. So if maybe Wentz has his third decent game of the year, probably not, but maybe. Especially now with the way he's playing lately, he's just been abysmal. There's nothing that entices me about betting this game. I don't want to bet the total. I don't want to bet a total because I find Monday night games very frustrating. Last night another perfect example. But yeah, there's nothing appealing to me in this game.
This situation here, weather-wise, at this point, the wind is supposed to be there in the morning and die off by game time. Die off pretty much, not die off, but 10 miles per hour by game time. And we have showers and rain throughout the day. So, again, when you're dealing with wind, you need to wait and get closer to the day of.
Also, I want to see Jordan Love, man. I want to see him come into this game. Like, what's the point of drafting him if you're not going to – or, sorry, Jalen Hurts. I want to see what's the point of taking him if you're not going to roll him out there and see what he can do, especially given how bad Wentz has been. At least find out. Find out if there's something there.
The problem is you're leading the division.
Yeah, for what though?
No, I hear you. I hear you.
You're leading the most embarrassing division in the NFL, and whoever wins that, there's a 98% chance they're out in the first round.
We all remember when the Saints beat the Seahawks, when the Saints won that home field advantage in the wild card game with I think they had a losing record. I believe they had a losing record. It certainly felt like they had a losing record.
Wasn't that the other way around? Wasn't it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Sorry. The Seahawks had the losing record, and they upset the Saints, who were thank you. Sorry. So, when you have that home field advantage late in the year, it's not impossible to put something together.
Yeah, but they don't have Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, yeah. I remember that run was nuts. Remember they broke the sound record until the Chiefs did, I guess, the next season or maybe the next week. Sorry. Late show. Yes, it was the other way around. I understand why this game is going towards the under. I don't see how the Eagles are capable of putting up points, even against the Seahawks. The team prop right now for the Eagles is 21.5. It's pretty low. 21.5. I mean, if I had a free play, I'd take the Eagles team total under. Is that worth betting on?
No, not against the Seattle defense.
Yeah. Okay, so no move for us at this point on the Monday Nighter, and that wraps up our show. 2 hours, 27 minutes. Thank you guys so much for rolling with us. Let's go over action, and the one thing that you wanted to revisit is the Washington Football Club +3 against the Cowboys. This market is not moving at this point.
I'm going to sit on that for now, but I am going to add KC because I think that line only moves up. I don't think I'll be able to even get a 3.5 later this week. I think that it ends up being KC favored more so by the end of this. So I want to jump on that before it moves.
Do you want the 3.5? I mean, the -3 is expensive. It's at -132. I wonder what it would cost you at Bet365 to pay for the 3. Why don't I check this out right now? It might be cheaper. Here we go. It might just be -130. To -138. Do you want the -3.5 at -110?
Yeah, I'll take the 3.5. I'm not paying for that much.
No, it doesn't make sense. I agree with that. Okay. The Chiefs -3.5 and -110 for Bebsy. Okay, then let's go over. Sorry, I have so many pages of notes here. Okay, let's go over this. So -3.5 minus 110 for Bebsy. Okay, let's review action, Bebsy. And let me know if there's a best bet for you here. In review, we are not moving on Texans Lions. We are not moving on Washington Dallas at this point, though. And I think this might be a mistake not moving on Washington. I really do. So we won't have a show before then, but that's a nice line. I wonder where the market goes in that spot. It's a minus 120. That's the problem right now, is that the plus 3 is at minus 120. If I could get a minus 110, I'd probably take it. For both of us, we're both on the Steelers first half and team total over 25.5. I'm also going to make a move on the Lamar Jackson rush prop. My expectation, he does whatever he possibly can to keep them in the game if the game goes. Bebsy's on the Raiders minus 3 at minus 109 at Bet America, and I can understand that bet. I really can. Then we have Cardinals, Patriots, no move. I am doubling up on the New York Giants, first half full game. So, and I'm also taking the Bengals team total under. And square as it may be, I just have to. Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, we are not moving. I want to know who's quarterback for Jacksonville. Titans, Colts, I'm doubling up on the Colts. First half full game, minus 2.5, minus 3.5. We're getting a plus line on that 3.5. Chargers, Bills. I'm all over this game. Bebsy's on the first half over 26. I'm on the Chargers full game. The Chargers team total over 23.5 and the full game over. And I say that the Chargers team total over 23.5 is my favorite bet on the card. That's my best bet. And then nothing for Dolphins, Jets. Nothing for Saints, Broncos. Nothing at this point for Niners, Rams, but there'll be a fun breakdown on Sunday. Bebsy just moved on the Chiefs, minus 3.5 at minus 110. And if Akeem Hicks is back, I'll be on the under in Bears, Packers, and Seahawks, Eagles. No look for us. Bebsy, do you have a best bet, my man?
I think my best bet right now has to be the first half points total over in the Chargers game. I think 26 is a sweet spot there. I can really see Buffalo and the Chargers putting up some points in that. So first half over, love it. Might add more to that game come Sunday.
I like it. I like it so much. We have no show without you guys, without your support, your insights, and your humor. You guys inspire us, and we're so thankful to cap with you each and every day. Kirk Gray, David Sharp, Christian Larson, the real Jolly Roger, Connor Mack. C-Mac's been with us for 2.5 hours, too. A lot of you guys have. Chris Brady, the Czar, Mr. Fun Monk, Prince of the City, Al Cervic, Joe Chris, Lily Gunn, Birdie, Slats45, both Birdie and Slats45 being with us for the 2.5 hours. Muhammad Joma being with us for the 2.5 hours. A lot of you guys have respect. What a treat it is to cat with you guys. Stephen Hennel was here with the whole 2.5. The Czar was as well. Christian Larson, Nick B. What a great, great group. Very, very thankful to cap with you guys. We're coming off a big week, 17-9 plus 6.66 units combined, and we need more of this. Wooks Weekly, thank you for joining us. All you guys, thank you so much. Bebsy, you want to put a bow on this bad boy?
Yeah, guys, thanks for sticking through with another marathon. As you can tell, I will talk football with anyone who will listen. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking it out with it. This is to my American friends. Happy American Thanksgiving. We already had ours, but I hope you guys have a happy, healthy, fun American Thanksgiving.